that on the
I know.
31st. That's just prepping.
Don, just one question. I don't have to redo an introduction and pledge allegiance, do I, at this point, to
No.
open this meeting?
It's a new meeting, it's totally up to you, it's on the agenda, so you might as well do it.
Okay,
Gonna do the pledge again, because the pledge wasn't on the first
I will
one.
do
Let's
that.
do
Do it, kumbaya, we need it. We need a little
I will.
positivity.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to call the meeting, the first meeting back to order, closed session at, what is it?
6:48.
6:48 PM. There's no motion, so I'll go ahead and call to meeting through Fraser City Council, regular meeting for Thursday, March 10th, 2022 at 6:48 PM. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, if I can get a motion for the approval of the agenda. Mr. Odell?
I would like to make a change to the agenda tonight. I'd like to move 8D Park and Recreation signs to next month, since we don't have all the bids to make a decision tonight.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second on item D. Any comments or questions on that motion? Any comments or questions from the audience? I see none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I will entertain a motion for the amended agenda. Councilman Odell.
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the change.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. You want to do roll call again, just for the record? I'm sorry.
Councilmember Bransky,
Present.
Councilmember Blanky,
Present.
Mayor Carnegie,
Here.
Councilmember Odell,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Shortman,
Here.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Present.
Councilmember Winooski.
Present.
At this time, I'll open citizen participation on an agenda items only. If you cannot stay for the entirety of the meeting, have any comments or questions related to the agenda only, please be recognized and, I see none. Any online? Okay, thank you. Item 6, the consent agenda. Councilman Winooski.
Having heard no call-outs other than the one amendment to the agenda, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
For a motion second.
You're saying A through G, right? Because H we have to do separately?
No.
No.
He's just, we eliminated Parks and Rec signs, that's all.
You're talking about consent.
Oh, yeah, we have to do
We have to
H
do
and
H
B.
by itself, set budget, process dates. That can't be part of the consent. It should have actually probably been under new business.
That should have been on.
New business.
Are the dates in the packet?
Are the dates?
Yeah, you were given all the dates in a memorandum that kind of lays out the process, so that's why it's on the consent agenda. Unless you wanted to pull it out to discuss, it's already laid out for you.
Okay, I just thought we were going to discuss the dates, but okay.
Second.
I'm good. We have a motion second. Councilwoman Blanky,
Pardon?
your light's on.
Oh, sorry.
Any comments or questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Oh, I missed this.
Item 7, 7A, APWA Project of the Year presentation. I believe this is Mr. Ragsdale. We always like good things.
Good evening. As everyone is aware, the city underwent a huge capital improvement project in 2020, 2021 with some water main upgrades and the addition of the PRVs, the pressure reducing valves that were installed. So Mike and I submitted the project to the APWA for the Projects of the Year award. And today we were awarded the 2021 Project of the Year for Environment 5 million to 25 million category. So we wanted to present the mayor with a plaque, but before I do that, wanted to give Mike a chance to let everyone know exactly what has went on with the project and what kind of savings we're actually going to save due to that.
Great, thank you.
So just a couple of real quick highlights. It was September 2019 when council approved going forward with the project. We took bids in January and construction started shortly after COVID hit in March 2020. All the construction work was primarily done by November 2020 and the PRVs came online March 31st, 2021. Since that time, the city has had 12 water main breaks when we would historically see 30 to 50 a year. So a tremendous savings in considering the location of the water mains that were replaced. 14 Mile Road in Utica, those two segments alone had seen 72 water main breaks in the last 25 years. So a tremendous improvement to the city's system reliability, some great technology upgrades, a very complex project, high traffic corridors, lots of utilities and things like that. Well-deserved award though, and I think everybody deserves credit for all the effort that went into the planning and discussion and implementation of that project.
Good tax dollar money to use it for.
In my professional opinion, it's probably the best thing the city could have ever done.
Great. Great. Any comments and questions from council?
Good job.
Thank you to DPW for getting it done.
I'll come down there.
No, I know.
Right.
Item B, MDOT Klein Road Contract Resolution. Mr. Vigron?
Sure. Before you tonight is a resolution that would approve the contract between the Michigan Department of Transportation and the City of Fraser for the Klein Road project. This is what appears to be a standard contract between the state and the municipality for the work. You'll recall this is an advanced construct project, so the city will be required to front $250,000 of project costs that will be replaced with federal aid in October of 2022. This contract will be needed to be authorized to move forward with the project. The project is scheduled for the bid letting in Mdot on April 1st. So at that point, we'll have firm construction bids. But at this time, the state has outlined all of the anticipated project costs based on our estimate of work to date.
Great. Anything do you need from us to just approval of the resolution, or?
I think approve the resolution, and that would allow Ms. Levin to sign the contract when it comes in.
Okay. So would anyone like to make that motion? Is Councilman Odell?
Make a motion that we approve the Mdot Klein Road contract resolution as stated for Elaine, city manager, to sign on city's behalf.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any comments and questions on the motion from the audience? Any from council? I see none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's get another project done.
All All right.
Okay, Item D, HVAC system engineering costs.
Nope, see?
See,
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over that one. A gate valve exercise bid award. I believe this is you again.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, on Wednesday, February 2nd, we received a bid for a gate valve exercising and condition assessment program. This was a program that we've been talking about with DPW and engineering for at least 4 or 5 years now. This would allow a vendor to come in and exercise all of the gate valves, determine which ones are working, which ones are inoperable, and provide their assessment to DPW, at which point we would prioritize repairs and things of that nature for the system. The low bidder is Wax Water Services. We've worked with them in other communities and been very happy with their work. We understand that $100,000 was budgeted in this year's budget for this program. The low bid that you see before you was just the mainline gate valves. What we're proposing is that we expand the program to include all the hydrant auxiliary valves. Those two programs in conjunction would amount to $79,817.80. Still fits within the budget and doubles the amount of information and valve exercising that would be accomplished this year. We understand that they are planning to start that this spring, and it's a couple of week program to come in and do this complete project.
I did have some questions on it, and I met with Mr. Ragsdale, but just so everyone's aware, is explain the hydrant process, because I know before in the fire department, we used to flush all the hydrants, and then in the wintertime, you have to make sure everyone's dried and pumped, and so you don't lose them or break them. Is that part of when they work on these? Will they flush them and pump them dry, or how does that whole process work? To know what the city and DPW has to do in the fall then, if it's done this year.
Yeah, I don't think that process would change for city staff at all. What this vendor will do is they've got an automated process where they'll attach onto the valve. They'll determine, does it open to the left or to the right? How many turns does it take to open it? In a lot of cases, these valves haven't been exercised ever, since they've been installed 25 years. And tuberculation builds up over time, and then if there's a water main break, DPW goes out and they can't turn the valve or things of that nature. So it's a very important program. It's something that Eagle has brought to our attention on a number of occasions over the last few years in their annual assessment of the city's water program and processes that should be done on a regular basis. So it's, again, in terms of what they're doing with relation to the hydrant flushing, they're just turning the valve to make sure, count how many times. If it needs to be flushed, it would be after that, probably by city staff.
So in this process, they actually don't flush the hydrant and run water through it to see?
But that,
So every fire hydrant, and it doesn't matter where it's at, in the city or any city, every fire hydrant has an auxiliary valve. So in case the fire hydrant gets hit by a car, we're able to shut that valve off. And so that's what this is. It's for those auxiliary valves. So part of this is actually locating them too, because sometimes we don't even know where they're at. So part of it is to locate it, to uncover it, and as Mike said, they will exercise it and get that data back to us.
I know, because once some of these, like you said, maybe not used in 25 years, you crack them open, and boom, you got a break, or they can't open, or they're full of rust and stuff. So I would just want an understanding of that, if they actually flushed them or not. Mayor Pro Tem Shornack?
When you say that they need to be done regularly, what's regularly? Yearly, biannually, what?
I would say, I mean, I don't have a number in front of me, but I would guess probably on a yearly basis would be something that would be a worthwhile operations and maintenance schedule. It has never been done, and it was one of those just, big elephants that nobody wanted to take on at the time. But
So basically, you're saying we should allocate approximately $100,000 per year to flush valves?
to exercise the valves, I don't know that you necessarily need to have a vendor come in and do that. I'll defer to Mr. Ragsdale on how he would like to approach that in the future. But certainly the first time that it needs to be done, there's a lot of data that you gain that
Oh, right, because he already said they don't even necessarily know where some of them are. But that's why I'm asking, because I want to make sure that if it's something that needs to be done yearly, that we're allocating the funds correctly so that it's in your budget every year to be done, if that's something that's necessary.
So it's something that should be done every year in every system. But there's not a single DPW director that's going to tell you that they do theirs every year. Most of them don't, and the reason they don't is because they don't have the staff. But years ago, yes, it used to get done. I can't speak for Fraser because I've only been here a year, but typically you allocate 2 employees to go out, and they have electric gate valve turner. Hopefully, we'll get to that point that we're able to do that ourselves, but the first step is to have the contractor do the first ones for us and to get that data for us. So
Yeah, but that's not my question. My question is, should we be allocating the money yearly for this, or is this something that once we get the
it's something
superior
I would
data?
like to do in-house.
Okay,
It's-
that is my question. So that's why I need to know, is this something that we need to allocate funds for every year, or we just this one time to kind of get all the info?
It's one time to get us going.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there. Hopefully, we'll be able to purchase a gate valve turner
Mm-hmm.
and do it ourselves.
Okay, that's what I was asking, because I need to know, because we need to make sure if that's something, because that is something, that is one of our failings in Fraser for years, is that no one thinks about what's going to happen tomorrow. It's always about today, and we need to think about the future. And if it's something that we need to allocate funds on because it's something that's necessary and needs to be done yearly, and you guys aren't able to do it, I want to make sure that that's a line item in your budget to make sure
Absolutely.
this happen.
Well, the reason why it's so important to do is if you get a water main break in
Oh,
the
no,
middle
I know
of the night,
why.
you might have, if one valve doesn't work, you might have to shut off 6 valves. That's that many more people that are out of water
Right.
because of you have a valve that you don't know doesn't work.
I'm on board with doing it. Again, I just want to make sure that moving forward, we're allocating the correct funds in the correct bucket to make sure that the jobs get done that need to get done and should have been being done on a yearly basis.
So at this point, it's a data gathering check,
This one.
right? This exercise is just gather all the data, document it, all that going forward, and then how to maintain them and make sure they work and which ones are in there and where they're located.
Right, we know that there's valves that don't work, but we don't have, I mean, just based on, past practice, so this will get us all that data.
Right. Okay.
We hope to have, a valve replacement program that would come in and correct all those deficiencies so that there are no valves that, if you want to turn one off, it's going to turn off.
So a good path forward will be determined after this is done.
Correct.
Mr. Odell?
Yeah, he just pretty much answered my question. So we're checking to see which ones work, which ones don't work, because has been checked for so long. Do we have I'm sure there's a lot of, we're not testing them to see if they actually work at that time, right? We're just identifying where they're at?
This
See them-
program,
Yes.
there is they've got a very specific process where they will exercise the valve all the way up and down, and
So to see if they actually work.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It'll turn it off. It'll count how many times you have to spin it to get it to open or close all the way. So that's valuable data for DPW and the fire department. All of that data goes into the.
And then typically, okay, let's say we have, 50 valves that don't work or whatever they replace. Is that DPW's job to replace that, or?
That's why I came back up here. So to answer your question, so when the valves will be exercised multiple times, when they find the valves that don't work, our next step will be to budget for those valves that need to be replaced. Then once we replace all the valves and we get all of our valves working, then we'll worry about exercising them on a normal basis.
Proactivity, not reactivity. Okay. Any other comments, questions from council? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Go ahead.
that we, let me put my light. Okay. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and move forward with the bid for the gate valve exercise bid award that A&W has recommended.
Second.
We have a motion second, and just to confirm, there's in the budget for these funds
Line
to
item.
remove, right?
Sorry, just confirming that's for the 79,817.80.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the audience? Back at council? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for bringing it forward, guys. It's important. Now we can get to the HVAC system engineering costs. Mr. Vigorant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. 2 months ago, I was before you with the findings of a study on this HVAC system here at City Hall, performed by Peter Basso Associates. With me tonight is Dave Conrad from Peter Basso Associates to help answer any of our questions and just put a face to the name. We had 2 recommended options, option 2 and option 3, and had presented a total recommended project cost of $490,000. That number was intended to represent total construction cost. And to, I guess, round out the entire project cost, we're requesting that council consider our proposal for design and construction phase services to prepare bidding documents for contractors to bid, and then administer the contract during the construction phase. We realize that this, our previous presentation to you probably suggested that this was a total project cost at $490,000, and we're here again suggesting that, in fact, the project might be more than that. And I think for a couple of reasons. The report was prepared in October of last year, and since then there have been a number of external market factors that have led to some additional cost increases that we wanted to make you aware of, number one. And number two, certainly the professional services was not really included in the number that we had presented at that time. We do feel that this is still the best solution for this facility, and we are prepared to continue to monitor costs and provide some opportunities for the city to reconsider if for one reason or another, as engineering occurs, the project scope changes or something of that nature. So I guess with that, we'd like to open it up for any questions, technical or otherwise.
Well, we received an email from the city manager, and I was surprised that, at first I thought the engineering costs were just missed. And it was like around $50,000, and obviously not in the project, which council, I believe, thought that was the price of the project, so, and I just couldn't let it slide. We had to have a definition of what happened and why, and, because that's a lot of money, obviously. And we were surprised that how did that happen? How did it get through? Because, we're looking at this budget, we got budgets coming over, and, a few thousand here and there is not bad, but a $50,000 hit's a pretty big hit for something like this. So it was my concern. I asked for it to be back on the agenda so council can ask questions or decide if they wanted to go a different path forward or how we wanted to do it. So that's what happened on my end, so.
I will take responsibility for that. I normally do present total project costs, and
Right.
it didn't occur in this time. And before, not a single dollar has been spent, towards this since then. So there still are, if there is time to, reconsider if that's the direction that you would like to
And then now you said, though, there's actually more cost because of the time frame. So it's engineering costs plus some additional costs because of the,
Yeah, the report was prepared late October, early November 2021. I think we prepared a letter for council early December. It didn't make it onto an agenda until January. Just the kind of the nature of the construction industry at this time, cost escalations are something that we're all struggling to try and provide you guys accurate information to make a decision on without outpricing a project, right? If we say something's going to be too much money, then it doesn't go forward. We always try and build a little bit of contingency into our numbers, and it's difficult. I know we presented a pretty sizable range of project costs. There's an opportunity or a chance that the whole project may still come in under there. We don't have contract bids yet. we don't have detailed engineering completed to complete a detailed engineering estimate. It was a budget estimate that was prepared at that time.
So we really don't have a price at this point.
We still don't.
Councilwoman Baranski.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused. So in January, we voted to proceed with the project with the estimated cost all in of $490,000. And it's now going to be more. And I understand the cost. Oh, I get that. That's, hello, loaf of bread is now more. But what have we done from January to today? Have the contracts been signed? Where are we at legally that, and then that second question is that $50,000, is that inclusive of your costs that were missed as well as the inflationary cost, or is that a separate amount?
The proposal for our professional services does not account for any other inflationary costs that may be experienced as part of.
That 50 grand that's just you, not you personally, but your company.
Right, yeah, and that includes our subconsultant, Peter Basso Associates, who does, that's their project scope would be the mechanical design. And
Okay, so then circle back to the first thing, when we approved this with a purchase price, or an all-in price, as we thought it was, of $490, what happened? Did we sign contracts? Did we do RFPs? I'm an attorney, so I'm thinking, I agreed to a contract, the contract went out, you signed it, we're done, and sorry, you didn't bid right, good luck, unless you had contingencies in there for cost overruns or whatever. So that's where I'm kind of trying to.
Right, at that point, what I believe we presented was an alternative to what had been budgeted. So $200,000 had been budgeted to replace the air handlers at this facility.
Right.
We were aware that that was not going to really solve the heating and cooling issues at this facility, and offered an alternative solution that was going to cost a little bit more money. But we were presenting an alternative to that. The cost that we presented did not have all of, the budgeted items.
No, I understand where the problem came in. My question is, what happened after we approved that alternative in January? What happened between then and today in terms of the project?
So what happened at that point was we started talking to Dave and his team to get this going, and we had said City Council approved option 2 and option 3 with these dollar amounts. We were prepared to begin those design documents, and setting up the project on our end, we realized that we had not presented the total project cost, including our fee. We said, time out, we're going to talk to Elaine and let her know, and she presented this to the mayor, and we're back here before you today so that before any contracts are signed, before anything is started, you have a better idea on what the potential project cost may be.
Okay, so is there any discount in there for human error? Given that I'm a lawyer, that's what I do all day long. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but at the same time, it's $50,000. It is 20% of the budget. That, it's a lot, or, whatever the math is.
Right.
And I know we have a long-term relationship with you, but at the same time, I could use $50,000 for something else. So, I don't know what I would have did if it was $550 instead of $490. That whole psychology of it's under $500,000, and I'll put it out there.
Right. Yeah, I think we looked at this very closely, and we did some very similar projects with PBA at the senior activities facility. So we have a good idea on how many hours it took us to prepare those bid documents and administer a construction contract. And we felt we sharpened our pencils and gave you guys, the best we could, realizing that there was, a mistake on our part in the presentation of the numbers.
Okay, thank you.
City Manager Levin.
I just wanted to remind everyone from the budgeting perspective, what we were planning on bringing this out of was the ARPA funds that we are getting. That was kind of one of the big discussions about getting the, I think, 1.3 or 1.5 million for ARPA funding. And one of the things that we really felt was a shortfall in this building was the HVAC system, so that became a priority, and that's kind of what started this whole project and process, and looking certainly at replacing the whole system instead of just doing a repair.
Yeah, because I believe we spend a fortune every year in maintenance and fixing and panels and equipment, and it's just,
Yeah, we've talked about the numerous problems that we have in particular in the building with the hot, the cold, the hot, the cold, the noise that makes it difficult to hear in here, and what they have prepared and put together is really a complete comprehensive overhaul of the system that should be more functional.
should be, will be,
Will be.
please. May,
No, they were before me.
sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Shornack.
Oh, no, please let them go first. Nope. Trust me, you want to go first. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave. It's,
So I'm having a really tough time trying to approve yet another increase in this contract, and it has nothing to do with material costs. And
well, there will be a call.
we're also looking at Exhibit A on this presentation. It says effective July 1, 2005 for the charges in there, and I'm sure that these hourly rates are different, quite a bit different from 2005.
No, our hourly rates are still from 2005. We haven't adjusted them.
Okay. So I understand if this had been because of material costs, I would have totally understood that, because I'm experiencing that myself right now in my profession. And I know specifically heating and cooling has gone up a lot, but I'm having a real tough time, again, another $40,000, $50,000 on top of this, and it has nothing to do with material costs.
I understand, and initially when we were looking at the numbers, there was the large range in the opinion of probable construction costs. There was a opportunity, or construction bids come in very favorably. This whole project could still come in under $490,000. It doesn't change the fact that our professional services weren't in the number that we presented to you before. I realize that it was an error on my part, and I'll take responsibility for it.
So how much of the 490 had professional services in it? How much does AEW stand to gain out of that original approval of 490?
Zero. That was the anticipated contract amount to a contractor to actually install the units.
So there were no design fees?
There was no design fee in that number.
I wish I had that paperwork in front of me.
Councilman Odell?
How long have you guys been with our city?
Since 1994.
1994. So this is what you guys do, work with governments, correct?
That's correct.
So, I mean, it's a, not just an oversight, I mean, that's a big oversight. So, I think overall, your guys' services, from what I've known, has been very good and on, but, I mean, this is a very sizable difference that, I mean, this should be in your guys' DNA for every bid. I mean, I don't think the city should bear that whole cost because we've got to enter it in. So I understand materials go up and we're in flux, but I mean, we approved it last month. So I thought we had to sign the contract right then and there, locked it in, but you come back to us because you discovered it wasn't in there, correct? We didn't move forward. We haven't been moving forward yet with the purchase of the HVACs or.
No, and what we presented was a proposed option for your consideration. There was no contract, no contractor. The project was never put out to bid. It was a, I guess it was a, do you like these options or do you want to go with the original option that was?
The way I understood it was all in, this is what it is, we're writing the check and let's get it done. What's this engineering cost? I mean, we already have units up. What's the engineering cost? What is it that you're explaining to me? I'm not an engineer or building trades, but what's this 55 going to exactly other than your labor cost on AEW?
Right, so there's two parts. Dave and his team are specialized, mechanical engineers. They do the technical part of it, and they rely on firms like ours to prepare front-end construction documents and things of that nature. We, after the contract is let, there's a contractor on board, there's an expectation of reviewing pay applications and progress meetings, pre-construction meetings, shop drawing reviews, things of that nature.
I don't know if I can support paying the whole 50, I mean, we got to get it done before the cost goes up, but I think there needs to be at least a sharing of the mistake here, depending on what the other council members think, but that's my thoughts.
What is the plan, but on your end, Mike, going forward, what would you propose to just like, okay, this is where we're going to go, but start now with a fresh quote and include everything that needs to be included?
Yeah, we have not gotten any quotes from contractors. This is just an opinion of probable construction cost. The schedule that we've outlined has a couple of bold items in there that we feel are appropriate timelines to install or insert some cross control into the process. So working with Dave and his team at 40% design development, we feel we've got a much better handle on the scope of the work. Do we need to do structural work to support the new units? Do we need to modify the curbing around the roofs? Do we need to get in and do specs for ceiling tiles or things of that nature as we're redoing the controls? At that point, we'll have a lot better idea and can refine the cost and present that for consideration. Final owner review is another opportunity to do that. And then at the construction contract award, if the project is fully designed, we put it out to bid. At that point, that's where you sign a contract with somebody. The numbers are what they are, and you go forward. Council would still have an opportunity to reject that bid, put it back out to bid, and things of that nature.
And what's the turnaround time on starting over and get at least something back to council? A proposal back to council, what would that turnaround time be?
A proposal back for the
Or, because you said there's actually now increase materials too, going forward. So obviously 490 plus 55 is, or is that just where you're going with 490 plus 55?
the 490 is just our a thought about what a
Estimation.
contractor might bid. We anticipate bringing this back to you in June with a proposal with a contractor for consideration with a low bidder. So that would be the time frame. We still feel that this could be done this fall. There are some lead times that are out there for equipment. We've noted that in the schedule that 14 to 16 weeks is kind of a total duration, assuming lead times that we're seeing right now.
Pro Tem Schreck.
So here's my problem with this, because you just said that you had done similar work, so you took the numbers from that similar work. And I've seen attorneys do this too, which aggravates the living heck out of me, that they're like, oh, well, we did this in this community, so we're just going to take the verbiage from this community and we're going to put it over here. And then that tends not to necessarily work because every community is different. So I have a very difficult time, because I know this is not the first time this has happened, that we're taking like an idea of what we think it's going to be, but this isn't a new building. This building's already been paid off by a bond. So this building's over 20 years old. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not building something new. You already know what the structure of the building is. You should already know all this because you guys were deeply involved in having this building built. So I have a very difficult time understanding how you would go, well, let's look at this and kind of give you like a, oh, well, maybe it'll be like this. If you're an engineering firm, what you do sometimes could actually either, if you don't do it correctly, it could crash on somebody and kill somebody. It could injure somebody, right? So your job is a very serious position, and you should have that correct information, I would think, at all times. And if there's going to be a fluctuation, of course, because of materials, because everything in the world's gone up, that's understandable. But missing a key component to a proposal that you've done clearly multiple times I have a huge issue with that because in my work, and I gotta imagine most people's work, we are human. We definitely make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. But you end up eating whatever you've done. You're the person who ends up dealing with whatever you've done. If you've made the mistake, you take it on the chin. And that's how you cultivate relationships and keep those relationships going with people. And when you make errors, you don't go, well, hey, yeah. I have a really big problem with this whole entire process. As much as I would love this heating and cooling system to finally be fixed, because it was never right to begin with, ever. I have a huge problem with this. And I would like to see well, I know everybody else would be willing to do a compromise, but I would really want a better explanation. I mean, again, I know we're all human, but you guys, this isn't something new that you guys have never done before. We're not reinventing the wheel. It's not a new building. You don't have new schematics to deal with and new stuff. You know what this is about. So I don't know. Again, where I come from, if you make a mistake, you eat it. So that's where I stand on this.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sutherland.
So I think my concern too is, the long game of what is there potentially out there that we're not seeing right now? Are there going to be additional costs at the next meeting when is there potential you could come back outside of material costs and other things that may go up that, we bargained in good faith, and I think it sounds like the majority of us were under the understanding that that was going to be the total cost. So how can we be assured that this additional $50,000 at this time, that there's not going to be another $50,000 next time? I mean, that's 10%, right, of the total cost of the project. And I think if you had any average homeowner and they were thinking about doing something like this, 10% could be a game changer as to whether or not it could actually be completed. So, I like my peers are having a really hard time with this, and it just concerns me as to what could be coming down the pipe also that we're not aware of at this time, depending on the decision we make today.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm kind of, that's how council would like to proceed. There's a few options, but Councilwoman Moransky.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the modified proposal to incur the additional expenses. At this point, in for a penny, in for a pound, but it's not going to be forgotten. And it's not a threat, it's just a reality. Like, I know you don't have the authority to say, oh, we'll do it for 40 or 20, but we want it done. Costs are going up. We delay it to negotiate over the 50 grand and get it down to 20 grand, and we've delayed it into next spring instead of this fall. So that's my motion. And it pains me to make that motion, but I think it's the right thing for our employees, our residents, and our tax dollars.
Mike, what can you do to take this back to your team? I mean, I know you've done a great job for us all the time. What's your management's position on this? And I'm sure you guys discussed it before you got here, or are they willing to do anything? And
Yeah, I can bring that back to my board and see what, if there is anything that we would be willing to do on our end. Obviously, we work, in not just for this project, but for every project as expeditiously as we can in the best interest of the city. This is a project that I guess would have required these services, whether it was us or somebody else. And I can ask and see.
yeah, we're in budget time. Obviously, we're trying to figure out what we've got, where we're going. We've got some pretty large purchases we need to do. We're looking at a fire truck this year and other building stuff, and that's a lot of money. Obviously, that, and so. And I agree with Councilwoman Ransky. This is a tough pill to swallow, and if it takes it to move it forward to continue the motion going, I'm okay with it. But I would sure like your management team to come back with something, or with Elaine, or have a conversation with us or something to see what we can do to rectify this. Because I think if we were to go out and re-quote and get different bids at different places, it would take forever. Mr. Odell, we do have a motion on the floor.
Yep, I just, one last thing. Yeah, I think it's in A&EW's best interest to lock these prices down for us, get it going, so because we know inflation's going through the roof right now. Let's do good by it, not, going forward, just clear understanding, when we get a proposal, we want to see it all in, if at all possible, and if not, you need to let us know what potential contingencies are up front. I'm new to the council, but, you know, I don't want to approve something and then 2 months later, oh, it's up 20%, we got to get some more information, and 2 months go by, oh, you know, labor's gone up so much. Let's lock it in as quickly as possible. It'd be under that $490 plus $55,000, and with that, I will second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Tell Scott he can call me anytime. Because he likes to, I like to talk about it too, if you would like to do that also. But we do have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Any opposed?
Me.
We have 2 nays.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay? Okay. Thank you much. Let's see. Item E, advancing Macomb proposal.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. And council, thank you for having me tonight. I was actually here a couple months ago with the CDBG allocation regarding our recreation initiative for the City of Fraser, Harrison Township, and Mount Clemens. Advancing Macomb Foundation is a 501c3. We're a conduit for resources in Macomb County to try to advance our communities. And one of our main strategies for doing that is working with philanthropic partners to bring more philanthropic dollars into Macomb County. So we have been working with the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan on some sports and recreation programs, and we had a pilot program in Mount Clemens called Sportport, which was a sports equipment lending library where kids and families could check out sports equipment at the local library or community center and take them home. And that was a pilot program. We were one of 15 locations throughout the region that were selected, the only location in Macomb County. And because of our coalition approach, bringing in youth sports organizations, the city, and some other nonprofit organizations, we were very successful in that pilot program. And we were asked by the Community Foundation to think about ways that we could expand that pilot program. So working with our partners, we came up with the Breaking Barriers to Play Coalition, and this is focusing on communities you have a lot on your plates. You're being asked to do more with less, but we still know that recreation is important, and there's a direct benefit to quality of life when communities are able to invest in recreation. So by using a cost-sharing approach between communities, youth sports organizations, nonprofit organizations, and philanthropic organizations, we can lower the cost of recreation services. And so this is an expansion of a pilot program, but we have a great coalition of partners that are very interested in supporting this. The youth sports organizations themselves, the ones that offer recreation, struggle with finding facilities, and that increases the cost, which oftentimes puts recreation and sports out of reach for a lot of families. So by bringing it back to this in-town recreation and trying to support in-town programming, we can provide more access to a lot of families in our communities. So we have some grant funding requests. We already have some funding for this program. We have some other requests that we'll be hearing back in the next couple of weeks, but we're confident that we'll be able to get that funding, which will offset the cost. So the proposal that I sent to the city manager, Levin, and the council shows it's the full program we estimate to cost $150,000 for the year, but by cost sharing and finding grants, we're asking you for $13,000, but we can actually take the $1,725 that you allocated from CDBG funding off of that, because that will be used for low to moderate income participants, which the remaining cost would be $11,275 for the City of Fraser to participate in this program.
It was 11,000?
Answer any questions. I'm sorry.
What was that, 11,000?
$11,275. Yes. And as I mentioned, this is a pilot program, so we're going to kind of see. We'd like the city to participate on the coalition, so Parks and Rec employees or a city manager to participate in the coalition, and that way we can really share best practices and see how the program's evolving, and then see how we can scale it from there, and see what other communities might want to participate. Obviously, the more communities that we get to participate, it lowers the cost, because Advancing Macomb is covering all the logistics and administrative cost for the program.
And what current cities are you trying to work with?
Harrison Township, the City of Mount Clemens, and Fraser.
Councilman Odell.
So it's a pilot program. Did you have actual leagues and everything last year?
It's expanding the sport program, so we have all the partners in place and the relationship with the funders. So when you're applying for a lot of these grants, Advancing Macomb doesn't apply for grants unless we have a really good confidence that we're going to get the grant. We do that through the relationships with our philanthropic partners. So we have that funding. We were invited to apply for the funding based on the success of the sport program.
And it looked like there was a core program for 20 weeks that kind of had a mix of different sports and a non-traditional, traditional league.
Yep.
So you guys provide the staffing for that, the coaches, we just provide the money basically.
Yeah, so the idea is to use the resources that are already out there. Instead of reinventing something or creating a new organization, we have a relationship with LK St. Clair Soccer, which is a nonprofit semi-professional soccer league. So they have they've gone through coaches training because we've helped them receive some grant funding for that. We work with Michigan Works for additional support staff. So by working with those youth sports organizations that already have the coaches and training in place, we're just tapping into that resource that's already there.
And would this be leagues between is Harrison Township and Mount Clemens, have they bought in already?
So actually, this is this month, the next couple of weeks, it's all on. I'm going to be visiting the council meetings for this, but we've been having the discussions, and there's strong interest in participating in it.
But nothing concrete yet.
Correct.
And then if they were to get the buy-ins, are they practicing these leagues in the individual cities? Is it a combination of all three? I mean, our Fraser kids got to go to Harrison Township to participate in these leagues? Because that would be an issue that,
Yep.
I mean, if we can only pull, say, 10 kids for one program,
Yeah.
is that going to be?
It's a great question. And I think that's where the coalition approach comes in, because by having representative from the city, we can do a facilities inventory and see where there's facilities. For this summer, when we're talking about soccer, kickball, kind of free play, we have a lot more opportunity with parks and public spaces that are available for that type of programming. Once we get into the fall and winter programming, it gets a little more challenging because you have to find indoor facilities. But by tapping into all the resources in those three communities, we'll be able to identify facilities locally where those families can participate in their own communities and not have to travel to those other communities. But we're using the youth sports organizations that already are here in these communities, such as LK St. Clair Soccer, East Side Little League, the Rec Bowl in Mount Clemens, and working with those community partners to find opportunities for transportation. We already have, the school districts are also interested, Clintondale, Mount Clemens, and Fraser are interested in the program to see how they can provide some extra after-school activities, so that they're willing to donate facility usage as part of this coalition, then, we can offer those
You're talking
programs.
about the school system
Yeah.
is put interest in this as well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Councilwoman Baranski.
Yes, I think that I want to praise you because I think you are tapping into a need. And it's interesting that you would highlight 3 small cities who are struggling probably not only with finances, but also with finding out what the residents need. We're not Sterling Heights. We don't have 40,000 kids to fill a program of 200. So and then the fact that you already have grants, you're a step ahead of where we are hoping to be. And to me, this is a no-brainer because it is an ability to try something, offer something to our residents at a very low cost. The packet outlines how much we're saving. And theoretically, the cost is going to go down if it succeeds. And it is a 1-year commitment. I don't see any reason not to do it, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the proposal as drafted in the packet.
Second.
Motion saying, yeah, Diana and I talked on the phone or all that, and even like, they will look at our resources that we have, our ball diamonds and our fields and our, even our parks. I mean, there's things that they may be able to do at some of our parks that will.
Well, and that's the nice thing, talking about why do we have to go to Harrison Township? We have awesome softball fields. Like, you're going to want to come to Fraser, and they're going to want to come to Fraser because that's why we had all the men's leagues and the adult leagues, because our facilities are really nice. So the nice thing is I think they're going to come to us as opposed to us going to them. That's my guess.
Absolutely.
So we had some great conversation. I appreciate you putting it together for me and getting it. And Elaine's talked to you too also. And I mean, yeah, it's such a small investment. Just start something off and see where it goes. It's like, wow, we couldn't, we talked about a part-time person, but this was just up and going and half the stuff's already done. And then even something like this, it just also releases our personnel to work on the city events they need to work on and not try to reinvent, like finding grants and where are they at and trying to do all this work. So it's a 1-year trial run. It's just, like you said, to me, it's simple. But
Thank
Yeah,
you for your
pro-tem
support.
sure.
I look forward to coming back and, presenting on how it goes and talk about, how we might be able to adjust it and make it successful going
I'm
forward.
sure you'll get involvement from some of our people and people visiting or be a part of your team too. And
Absolutely.
there's that much interest to make something work and start something at least until we can get our feet on the ground.
So my question is, how are our residents going to find out what programs you're going to offer and where and how they can sign their children up? So how are we going to be advertising this to our residents so that they can take advantage of the program that we're trying to do? Because obviously right now, since we don't have a Parks and Rec, we want to have something for these kids this summer while we're working on some other avenues and in between now and then. So how would they get involved with their kids?
Yeah, so actually part of our budgeting includes communications. We know communications is going to be huge for this, getting out there. So we'll create the flyers, and not only that, one of our partners, youth sports organization partners, is also a software engineer and has already developed the registration software for us to use, and we can use the logistics, scheduling and things like that around the coalition. So again, bringing together those partners to talk about scheduling and all of that, and we'll provide the communications, the flyers that you can just embed right on your city's website for participants to sign up. And we'll help you also with just spreading the word, through different communication channels.
So when do you anticipate this, like your first?
Our goal, June 1st is our
Okay.
goal to start.
I was going to say your first event.
First sessions, June 1st.
That's what we wanted to do, June 1st, remember?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people who are trying to figure out what to do with their kids this summer because these kids have been on lockdown for so long. It's time for them to, get back out there and actually start using words instead of technology to communicate,
Right. Yes,
So
exactly.
the art of conversation has been lost on this generation, horribly so.
Yeah, and focusing just on the basics, the free play, and obviously we have baseball and soccer and those things set up as well, but it just gets kids active, and that's the whole goal, is just getting kids an opportunity to be active and not make it overcomplicated. Just bring it back to, pick up games and getting outside and playing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it fits in with what Pro Tem said, is, we have some council people who are working on some other avenues too, what can be done in the future, and trying to figure out what the city really wants going forward, but that takes time if you're going to do it right, and this is kind of.
And think of us as a partner in that going forward, because we're working with those philanthropic partners, and even some of our health institutions. You know, we have Ascension and Henry Ford and McLaren that serve on our board, and we're always trying to find, you know, areas that align with what their goals are, giving goals, and how we can partner together going forward. So certainly think of us as a partner in
Great.
figuring that out.
Thank you. Councilman Wojciechowski.
Yeah, I just wanted to also praise you for putting this program together and thinking outside of the traditional box. You bring in the non-traditional leagues, you know, with the golf and the martial arts and the racket sports and swimming and where all the other communities they're still in that little box of football, baseball, you know, soccer and.
The kids that don't play those sports feel left out.
Right.
We have a motion and second. Any comments and questions from the audience? Any more from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Pick up the ball and run with it.
Exactly.
Thank you much.
Every pun intended?
Yeah. And if you need anything, Diane, let us know. Because I said we have some council people up here who are really involved in trying to, so maybe they'll want to get involved too and help you out. Item F, fiscal year 2020 audit presentation.
Hello.
Good evening, how are you?
Good. Well, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Mike Rolka with Yo and Yo CPAs. I'm presenting the fiscal 21 audit results. In front of you, you will have 3 bound packages, as well as a letter. And I encourage you to read all of those in your spare time. However, I'm just going to go over highlights and take any questions you may have. I'm going to start on page 2 of the audit results binder. And first, I always like to talk about what an audit is, because there's a big misconception that an audit is to identify and find fraud. And that really isn't what the purpose of an audit is. That commonly happens through whistleblowers or employees discovering incidents such as that. The purpose of an audit is to conduct auditing procedures to identify whether the financial statements are materially correct. And that's an important term, materially correct. That doesn't mean that every single number is 100% right. It means materially correct. So that means that you can reasonably rely on the financial statements for your decision making. Management's responsibility is preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And that includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of an internal control system that can either prevent or detect and correct errors and misstatements. What the auditor's responsibility is to identify potential risks, create auditing procedures, and conduct the audit to make sure whether there's material misstatements and correct them. As the result of our audit, we provide an opinion. And our opinion is considered an unmodified opinion, meaning that the financial statements are materially correct. And the unmodified opinion is exactly what you're looking for when you have an audit conducted. That's what you want to hear. There's other types of opinions that are worse: adverse opinions, qualified opinions, or disclaimers. If you were to think about a grading scale, an unmodified opinion would be considered an A. I'm happy to report that.
Good. Good start.
Moving to page 3, this is a trend line of the governmental funds, revenues, expenses, and fund balances over the past 5 years. I do want to call out this is for presentation purposes only, and Yo did not audit 2017 through 2020. I pulled those other figures from those audits. So you can see that in the governmental funds, pretty much for the past several years, revenues exceeded expenditures, which means that the city is operating within the revenues it takes in. And you can see as a result of that, fund balance has increased year over year. So much so that fund balance actually for all of the governmental funds totals about 100% of actual annual expenditures. So about 1 year worth of fund balance in expenses, if you will. I'll get into the breakdown of that shortly. The next page is a pie chart on page 4 that breaks down what those governmental fund revenues were. And by and large, the primary source of revenues, of course, is property taxes. And this mix of governmental revenues is fairly similar to other cities of your size, where you're going to see property taxes being the bulk of your revenues, followed up by state sources. And what those state sources are is the state shared revenue monies that you get into the general fund, and primarily the Act 51 funding for your major and local streets funds. In addition to that, there's charges for services, license and fines, other revenues, and federal grants. I do like to point out the federal grants. It was only 2% of governmental revenues. However, those ARPA funds, as Elaine mentioned, will be coming through, and you'll see an increase there in the future.
So, Mike, so the federal grants, is that part of COVID?
Yes, most of those were COVID-related grants and a small amount of CDBG funding.
Said it won't be there next year.
Thank God.
The CDBG or
No.
the COVID grants, correct? But it'll be replaced by the ARPA, which is more robust. So,
You hope.
well, perhaps yes. It's the money's there, right? It's just whether it's
Nothing is
spent.
ever
Yes.
set in stone.
On the next page, page 5, this is the snapshot of the governmental expenditures. Once again, very common to see public safety is the top expense in many communities, representing police, fire, the building department, and the ambulance. Followed up by public works, which is streets, whether it was spent out of the general fund or the major and local streets funds. But then there's two other areas that are a big piece of the pie, if you will, both at 12%. General government, which represents the general operations such as clerk, finance, administration, those types of things. And then other, and you might wonder what this other is and why it's so big. Well, that represents the pension and health insurance costs that are unallocated. Okay, I'd like to move to slide 6, which is a trend of the fund balance, which we'd already discussed, has been rising year over year. So I'd like to focus on 2021 and what's made up there. The green portion of this bar graph is the unassigned fund balance, and that is 100% of unassigned amounts in the general fund. It's about 7.7 million, and it represents 48% of annual general fund expenditures, which is a great thing to report in a healthy fund balance. The assigned portion is in the blue there, which represents what was budgeted for as a usage of fund balance in fiscal '22. Lastly, there's a little sliver of orange you can see in there that represents non-spendable items. So that's things that have already been purchased, such as prepaid purchases or inventories. And then finally, the red is restricted amounts. And so that is sourced from restricted funds, such as the Act 51 funding, property tax millages, and the like. It's primarily made up of amounts restricted for streets, courts, and public safety.
So the blue, just so, if people are gonna check this online, the blue is for like the improvements of the recreation, the parks.
The blue would represent, at the onset of when the 2022 budget was created, how much usage of fund balance was expected. Yes.
Expected.
Correct. So if you look back at the original adopted 2022 budget, you'll see that there was a expected usage of fund balance of about $3 million. So that's to say expenses would exceed revenues for $3 million, which sounds like a bad thing, but given the level of fund balance, it's not.
Right.
Right.
So as long as the green's bigger than the blue, we're okay.
You really could have it fully assigned, truly. That isn't the key indicator, if you will. You just want to make sure you have enough assigned for specific reasons or unassigned fund balance that you have a rainy day fund, if you will. If something happens, prices start to go up, that you can take that and have a little cushion for a period of time. Typical unassigned fund balance has been recommended by the GFOA of 12 to 25% as a minimum. So you're sitting at 48% right now, so I'd say that's pretty healthy. Slide 7 is a interesting chart of the enterprise funds. And this is your water and sewer and your senior housing fund. The bulk of this is really water and sewer, so I'm going to focus on what that is. You can see over the past several years that revenues have exceeded expenses, and these are operating revenues and operating expenses. What that tends to indicate is that the rates in place are sufficient to maintain operations. Now, the expenses may look significantly lower than the revenues, and there's a reason for that, and that's due to amortizations of gains on the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability. So when there's significant gains in those liabilities, they get amortized over future periods so that it doesn't all hit in one year. So that is a reduction of expense this year as well in 2020, and that's why it looks like there's such a disparity there. The gold bar across the top is the net investment in capital assets, and what that number represents is your net book value of your capital assets in those funds less any related debt. So you really never want to see that as a negative number, but it's good to see that it's been holding steady or climbing, which means that your capital asset investments are keeping up with the depreciation costs. The last thing I wanted to point out that I don't want to talk about too much, but the gray line at the bottom, the total unrestricted net position had dipped down into the negative figures and now is back up into positive, so that's good to see. Page 8 is really covering that additional letter that you'll see attached with the financial statements. We refer to that as the governance letter. It has required communications to council members and the mayor, which include the timing and scope of the audit, qualitative aspects of accounting. Just a few things I want to mention on that is the adoption of a new standard. It was GASB 97, but that had a minimal impact on the city. We did make some modifications due to the adoption of GASB Statement 84, fiduciary activities, that was early implemented in prior years. However, we found an error with that, and I'll get into that further in a little bit. Lastly, significant estimates always are a part of the financial statements. You can never do financial statements and everything be 100% known. Those most significant estimates are the useful lives of capital assets. So if you estimate a fire truck is useful for 10 years, you depreciate it for 10 years. Maybe it's useful for 20 years. Maybe it ends up, junking out at 5 years. The net pension liability and the net OPEB liability are huge estimates. Big balances, big liabilities, and very small changes in those percentages used in the estimates can wildly change it. Lastly, I'd like to talk about some of the upcoming accounting standards, and there's really two big accounting standards coming up that's going to affect every government. The first one is GASB Statement number 87, which is regarding leases, and so that makes a new accounting model for all leases. And what it will do is essentially bring all leases onto the books as assets and liabilities. We already have something like that called a capital lease. However, the new standard looks at everything and says, is this contract in essence a lease, whether it says lease on it or not? So it'll bring it on the books as an asset and a liability. GASB Statement 96 is another one that's upcoming that is very similar to the lease standard I just mentioned. However, it's for software subscription technologies. So think your accounting software as an example. They scoped that out of GASB 87, created its own standard just for technology. 87 will be implemented for fiscal 22, and 96 will be for fiscal 23. Lastly, that governance letter has some matters for management's consideration, which are on the next page. So as a part of our audit, we look at policies and procedures, we look at compliance with laws and regulations, because we have to report certain statements as true or false to the state of Michigan. And so there's a few things in here that will be identified to the state, and a few things that we recommend as best practices. So we always want to start with good written policies and procedures over the accounting system. This is a non-inclusive list, but we'd like to see a capital asset policy put into place. Electronic transactions and credit card acceptance policies and resolutions, those are actually required by the state if you're going to be doing electronic transactions or accepting and using credit cards, which the city's doing, so something will need to go in on that. We'd also like to see a written policy and procedure on formal month and year-end closing process to make sure that the accounting process has guidelines on when things should be done, how they should be done. If there's turnover, somebody can open the manual and at least have a broad idea of where to begin. Two other law pieces is the Michigan Estates Law, which is unclaimed property. We had identified a few things that were outside of the boundaries of that, and we made a link in that letter to how to comply with that law, and we advise you to do so, as well as tax disbursements. So when the city collects property taxes, it has a responsibility to remit those to the other units, such as the school district, within a timely manner, and we have found an instance when it was not.
And that's a detailed audit?
Yep, yeah. Not the specific date or anything of that nature, but there's a paragraph on it in the letter.
So the city can actually react to what's...
Yes, of course, yep. And then lastly, capital asset administration. So along with developing a capital asset policy, we recommend that the list is kind of scrubbed and looked through because there's many old capital assets on there that are fully depreciated that are unlikely to actually be in service anymore. They have no effect on your books, if you will, because they've been fully depreciated, but why maintain a 20-page list when it could be a 10-page list, as an example? Yes.
Does your firm provide guidance or documentation on how to follow these? Because possibly we don't have people that have, that background to make sure that these procedures are being followed month end.
Yep.
This is your to-do list every month. Do you guys provide that as part of your audit best practices on how to do that?
Yes, so before the presentation here, I was speaking with Sarah, and she told me that she'd already begun on some of these, and I had talked to her about some of the other policies and procedures that are coming up that I was going to provide her afterwards, actually. Templates, if you will.
Exactly. It's just a blueprint to follow. Or
Right,
all
right. Don't start with nothing. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving to page 10, we have a couple of government auditing standards findings that I'd like to quickly cover. The first one regarding audit adjustments and error corrections, that refers back to that GASB 84 improper implementation. So when that standard came out, it's regarding fiduciary activities. It defined what fiduciary activities are, how to record them, and the OPEB trust fund has assets with the MERS retiree health funding vehicle that were never put on the books, and there was never a fund put into the books regarding that. So we did a prior period adjustment to record the beginning balance and then all of the activity during the year. So there's about $700,000 of devoted assets for the OPEB plan. Going along with policies and procedures, whenever you accept federal funding, you're required to have certain policies and procedures in place and in writing in accordance with uniform guidance. Uniform guidance was a huge overhaul of the single auditing process. I believe back in 2014 is when it was implemented. And so I'm seeing with all of these federal funds that have been coming out the past year or two, many communities that weren't used to having single audits, we're having to assign this finding because they just don't have these policies and procedures in place and in writing. But these policies and procedures really are pre-award criteria. You're supposed to have them in place before you even accept the award. And that's one of the big ones that I'm going to provide a template document on. We have a significant deficiency for the untimely audit filing. A lot of the cause of that was the identification of the need for a single audit, which is a compliance audit over federal awards, late in the audit process. We were initially led to believe that $500,000 of federal awards I pointed out early on in the governmental funds was all of the federal awards. And the threshold for a single audit is $750,000 of expenditures. We subsequently identified a grant in the Water and Sewer Fund, the capitalization for drinking water grants, that put it over that threshold, and we needed lead time to develop our audit procedures, do the audit procedures, and conduct everything. So I think that is a direct impact of not having the federal policies and procedures, because had those been in place, I think there would have been a comprehensive list of all of the grants. Moving on, just a quick thing about the single audit then. So the major program was the capitalization grants for drinking water, state revolving fund cluster. That's a mouthful, but that's what they call it. That comes through the state of Michigan, and portions of that are federally funded. This was our major program. We had no major program findings. Everything that we looked over was correct. No issues there. The actual total of this program was just over $704,000, which brought total federal awards to $1.2 million. That concludes my presentation. Before I take any questions, I'd really like to thank Elaine and Sarah. They did a great job, and I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Councilman Odell.
So I see, reading in the findings of the audit, you guys don't audit the internal procedures of it, right? You take the samplings of different transactions, see if they're following the guidelines, but in your audit, you don't actually design or see if proper internal controls are being done, correct?
So we do have to gain an understanding of internal controls for the purpose of risk assessment. We don't provide an opinion on internal controls. That is a requirement under the PCAOB, so for public companies. What we do is we obtain questionnaires about the various key transaction cycles, so tax receipts and disbursements, general disbursements, receipting, grants, payroll. And then what we do is select a single transaction from each area we consider to be a key transaction cycle and walk it through the processes and make sure the controls are being followed.
The controls set by our management.
That are in, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But if there's something that you see that, maybe, let's say payroll's not being checked accordingly or signed off correctly by the right person, you don't put an opinion on that whatsoever.
Not an opinion, but you'd often see that in the management comments for improvement, where
Well, the management
depending on the severity, it may come to council, it may not, depending on the severity. Yeah.
And do you have
No opinion on it.
No opinion?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
And would your firm provide like best practices can be given to our staff, because we do have a lot of turnover in the high positions right now, and some have a lot of experience, some don't, so I want to make sure everybody's on the same page when we're expensing, who's signing off, who's reviewing it, so we don't have misspending or unallocated spending in the future. That's something that I'm very interested if your firm would, again, have a template, have a roadmap to provide for them. Is that something you can provide us?
We probably could. I don't have a template for that. I do have some template policies, and a lot of this is really driven by policy. Okay. What is the policy? Who's signing off on what? We didn't identify any significant errors as it relates to that type of thing. But from a transactional type thing, like all the sign-offs were there that you'd expect to be, check registers are being checked over, that type of stuff was being done.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So this isn't really a question necessarily for you, it's really for Sarah and Elaine. So with the deficiencies that were pointed out, have we made our own little roadmap? And I am glad that you're going to be able to give them templates, but have we made our own little roadmap on how we're going to accomplish this so they are not repeat deficiencies? Because I know, like, when we get our audit at work, if there's a repeat deficiency, heads roll. So I just want to make sure that we're moving forward without that. And I know you're still new into the position and stuff like that. I just want to make sure we've got that roadmap so we know where we're going, so we will not have this next year. Next year, if he comes back with something, it won't be these findings. Hopefully it'll be nothing, but that's not realistic.
We had identified a lot of these deficiencies in November when they were on site, and that's when Carrie and I began working through MGFOA to develop templates for the policies that we needed to have in place. So at this point, it's really just bringing them forward to have them approved and instilled as generally accepted by the city itself. So we do have a credit card policy, but it doesn't cover a lot of the electronic transactions that were referenced that need to be covered. So it needs to be a broader scope of what's included in that. But that was something that we were working heavily on, Carrie and myself, to make sure that there is practices and procedures so that if, we have half the department out with COVID, which did happen unfortunately over the past couple months, that, the ball keeps going, that there isn't anything ever dropped. Thankfully, for the most part, we're a well cross-trained group, but it still needs to be formalized so that there isn't anything missed.
Excellent. I just want to make sure we've got that going.
This was actually one of the key things that I noticed when I started in Fraser, is trying to find policies and procedures, all of the information. I've complained a lot about contracts, copies of documents that were just not available and could not find. As part of my department head meetings, I have let every department head know that one of the things that I will expect is to start putting together the policy and procedure handbook for each department, so that if anyone is out for some reason and we need to bring someone new in, they have a book they can come, open up, and be able to at least get the basics or at least find the direction for what it is that they need to do. Most recently, my last department head meeting, I did let them know that I would expect to have some type of at least preliminary outline for what types of policies and procedures they're going to be looking for, including in their policy and procedure manual.
Excellent.
One easy thing for public safety, though, is that because they are so structured, they fortunately have a lot of these rules and policies and everything in place, but finance department, clerk's department with elections, things like that, it's something that I worked with my team in Marine City to prepare all this documentation, and it went very good. It's just that we are struggling so much trying to just do our day-to-day jobs, finding the time to be able to put together these policies, and that's why I'm stepping into it very slowly and making sure that everybody knows that this is something that I will be taking very seriously, and it does need to get done. I'm giving them steps to start at least with the process.
And I understand that pain because I'm doing the same thing at my work right now. And I'm trying to get them done, but you know what? You got to make sure we got to make sure the daily stuff is done first. So good. I'm really glad.
An outline is a great start. That way you at least know some of the things that you're going to want to start preparing for just these rules. Even just for me, working with you guys on my first cycle of the budget here, working my schedule back from, okay, the budget's due at this point, when do I need to start doing all of these other things?
Excellent.
I have one question based on sitting up here for a long time. It's been in a lot of our audits is time accounting and processes and procedures. I haven't gone through word for word, but did you find anything?
Regarding like sign-offs of timesheets and that type of thing. So every timesheet we looked at was appropriately signed off, and we didn't identify any errors.
Okay.
All of our payroll is double-checked by not only myself, but also Elaine, so that they're on multiple levels to ensure that the timesheets are going through and they are being accounted for properly. So we're hopeful that there's never an issue of that capacity.
Because it's been on many, many audits before, and I went through it real quick and did it again here, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, we're looking to really step up that process. I think in the past, they've talked about using BSNA timesheets, and that's something that Sarah and I have had a number of discussions about, and I know that Vince was planning on rolling that out, never quite happened, and that's one of the things that we want to start doing. Timing-wise, it might be something where we don't do it until the next fiscal year, just to make things seamless. So that will be another measure that will help ensure that things are a little bit more uniform and the checks and balances are in place.
Yeah, in past years, when you have ungodly amount of hours that are almost impossible to understand where they come from, and there's no accounting out of it, it's hard for council to try to figure that out. So hopefully everything's going in the right. Okay. Anybody else? I think you did a great job. We appreciate it. This is your first audit with us, and I think it's very well done. We were a little bit late, but that's okay. It's got
That'll be
right.
better next year, I'm confident.
Absolutely, but in your opinion, the city, we're doing okay.
Yep, yes, absolutely. Unmodified opinion, right?
Take it.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Appreciate
Elaine
your
and
help,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Thank you.
Getting it all done and working with them. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Please do. We'll go ahead and take a break. Come back at 8:30, please.
All righty.
go ahead and call the meeting back to order. We're on item G, Public Safety Director vacancy. Councilwoman Baranski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a long process to get here today. This is sort of the final pillar in what we as a council have been trying to achieve in terms of getting consistency and efficiency, both from a fiscal perspective as well as city services. Late last year, we were approached by Lieutenant Bisbee, now Captain Bisbee, with an offer to negotiate away the right to follow Public Act 78, which we had started the process to hire our chief. After extensive negotiations, last meeting, we did ratify that agreement and sent a directive to the city manager to come up with a parameter for hiring a chief. The directive was very clear. It was very late at night, so a lot of people didn't catch it, and that's the reason for the catch-up here now, to consider both internal and external candidates. This allows the city to ensure that we get the best candidate for a chief. We are, not to say that an internal candidate isn't qualified, but the way you get the best is you look at everyone. Also, it allows us as the city council to determine what the job duties will be, what the expectations will be. It is a person that reports to the council, and just like the other department heads. So in that regard, we asked Elaine to put together a proposal for us tonight to continue that process so that we can have a director of public safety who is not a member of the union, who is going to be able to guide us through the next steps. We have made a lot of changes in a lot of departments and generated a lot of efficiencies. And, you know, we've already heard from 2 of our department heads today about those efficiencies. So I'm excited to see the additional efficiencies we can get in that last piece, the biggest piece of the city. So I just wanted to give that history just because it was probably almost midnight when we did that vote, and no one was here, and I don't blame anyone for not watching, but that's why we are doing what we're doing, so it's crystal clear. We were approached by Captain Bisbee. We accepted his proposal, and here we are ready to hire a chief and get a director in place.
Explanation. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. So that brings you on board.
Yes, so one of the requirements of that new letter of agreement with that union is to put together a process for how we are going to fill the Director of Public Safety. So I have outlined really some steps to just go through. They're very general because I think when we are putting this together with the subcommittee likely will help set some of the specific parameters, which really could vary from, say, year to year when you may have to get a new director. It gives you flexibility so that, say, 10 years in the future, when you're going through this process to replace potentially who we might hire for our next director, you have some flexibility so that you can go with maybe some new ways of testing or different groups of people to really set up the department and how you want to go after that director. The process that I put here, as I said, is very general, and I'm looking for approval of this process and also the job description to go along with the public safety director so that we can move forward and get this position posted. The hiring subcommittee that I'm looking for would be up to 3 members. These people would help with the initial review of the resumes and also any of the other specifics such as conducting the testing and background checks, helping give us parameters for what council would like to see for that process. And hopefully through this process, we will, like Councilperson Baranski said, get the best candidate. That's really what it is all about, is getting a good candidate for the city, because this is one of our highest profile positions, one of our highest liability positions. We want someone with the right credentials, training, and temperament to be able to really lead this department and certainly move it forward in the next, hopefully 10, 20 years.
Great. Councilwoman Baranski.
Yes, so Councilmember Sutherland and I were instrumental in the front end of this with the assistance of everyone else. But so Elaine and I did speak, and I kind of tried to give her suggestions that incorporated in a lot of what we did with the last few hirings we've had with the different department heads, so that we could have the opportunity to have informal interviews with before we have the formal interview, because it's always nice to get two bites at the apple, two chances to see them in a small setting when maybe they're on lunch and rushing to get the interview in because we're running late and it turns into a great hire, compared to the formal process here where, you know, you get a limited time. So I am very comfortable with the proposal to not have all of us do everything. But that being said, I'm very mindful of some of the missteps that I know that myself and Patrice and former council member Lesage took with Sarah. Not that Sarah was a mistake in hiring her, but we didn't convey the information to you like we should have. And we've apologized for that, but timing was such. So it was trying to merge and morph all of that to make sure everyone is aware and has the ability to play a role as much as they choose. Because some people want to just do that formal interview, and that's okay. Other people may want to be hands-on, and that's kind of the insight I gave to Elaine for why it's how it is. And also to make sure that we allow as many internal candidates to interview as possible, because we had talked about, should they have 5 years or 10 years, or, you know, what's that magic number? And to me, there isn't a magic number, because there's always or requisite experience, right? So I'd rather interview more than less, because we're going to know it when we see it. We've had great success doing what we've done and getting great people with this process. So that's kind of the backstory to where I think that's kind of how you polished it up. Is that fair?
And I think one thing with this process, talking about having a subcommittee that would do kind of like the preliminary interviews, great thing about Zoom is that we would be able to record that and everyone would have an opportunity to at least take a look at those interviews so you can see the candidates before we start moving forward in the process.
Right.
And your thought was that it would be you and Sarah and then up to 3 members of council. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Councilman Winowicki.
Yeah, I applaud your efforts on this, and I think it's well thought out, it's well stated, and so I'm prepared to make a motion to approve of, got to get the wording here right, approve the adoption, the selection process for the appointment of a public safety director.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments and questions from the audience? I see now I'm back at council. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all for your work and help.
Do we want to discuss the subcommittee now, like interest or desire? Because we want to get this going. This is, you know, yeah.
Sure, you can, yeah, absolutely, if you'd like to.
2 hands. I would be interested, but if someone else has a dying interest, that's fine too.
I can be helpful maybe on the fireside, but that's up to you guys. I can sit out and.
Want to start with the 3 ladies and have you be our consultant?
Sounds good to me.
Then I make a motion that Councilmember Sutherland, Councilmember Shornack, and Councilmember Baranski serve on the subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Committee senior, whatever that's called, senior status for Winowicki.
And me as an alternative for
Yes.
information
Yeah.
purposes only.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Any comments and questions on that motion? And we'll vote for all 3 at the same time. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Aileen, good with that? Yeah. Okay. Item H, public safety promotion of Officer Gillis to Captain Gillis. Item H.
I can, okay. Sorry. So another requirement, another negotiated element of the proposal brought by Captain Gillis, he's now a captain, that was one of his terms, was to also mandate that there be 2 captains during the period of this agreement. And Sergeant Gillis was next to be promoted, and for that reason, through negotiation, rather than requiring retesting, he will now be, we are required to promote him to captain, and for that reason, then I'll make the motion to, I'm bummed he's not here because it is a big deal, but I would make the motion to promote Sergeant Gillis to Captain Gillis.
Support it. I'll second. Yeah, just for informational purposes, as you're going to use me for, John's also a great firefighter. He's really educated in fire. He's very good at fire. I'm very comfortable with him in that position also, so I think he'll be an asset to the department all the way around, so I think it's a good choice. So, in that case, any comments or questions on the motions? Okay, see none, council? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, captains. Item I, Sarisa 911 surcharge resolution.
The resolution that you have before you is for us to really let the county know that we are interested in having a countywide 911 phone surcharge. We're one of the few counties in, I think, the area that does not have 911 service that is put on your cell phone, your home phone bills, and gets paid to the communities and the county to help with help recover some of the costs for service. The numbers that we're tentatively looking at, if this resolution is approved, is estimated to be about $535,000 impact. This would directly help benefit Sarisa and the costs that we pay them for our dispatch services. I understand that this is a resolution that has been done several years, and this is something coming back to you, and hopefully at some point in time, the county will have enough support that they will be able to pass this resolution and help offset some of the costs.
Great, thank you. Any comments and questions? Go ahead.
My recollection was that we did not approve this resolution in the past.
This is the
Did we?
911. This isn't for Sarisa itself.
No, I know what this is, and because I was anti a tax that didn't have, I mean, it's just another tax, is really what it is. Anytime you call 911 now, you are taxed on that, correct?
No, it's just a surcharge per month, per line.
So it would be a surcharge that would go on the line.
Well-
and that surcharge goes in a kitty, and then it gets distributed to the jurisdictions in the county.
But that hasn't passed yet at the county level? 'Cause-
No, it's only resolutions. Some states, some communities, some counties have already done it.
Did we, because I know we talked about this in the past, did we, or is there already a resolution for us approving this?
So this is just a resolution of support that you really are asking the county to consider putting it in effect.
Right.
My understanding is it has gone to the county in the past, and I don't know if it just never really made it out of a subcommittee, if there wasn't enough support, but that's just something that the Sarisa really is trying to persuade everyone to keep doing this resolution, and eventually there will be enough support, voices will be heard, and the county will pass this.
Okay, and so if this surcharge were implemented, the city of Fraser is projected to get $535,000 back out of that surcharge?
Sarisa would, because
Sarisa
they're
would.
our dispatching agency, so that would reduce our costs.
Okay, so is that in the contract that we have with Sarisa, that any surplus that they get results in a direct reduction in our cost, as opposed to being in the no-fault world, big bad insurance company who took all your money allegedly and didn't give you a discount. You know what I'm saying? That
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's specifically in the contract, but I do know that there will be some information coming to you for the future budget for Sarisa. I had mentioned at our last meeting that they're reformulating the way that they do their charges to other communities, and it's going to be resulting in an increase in our fee for 25%. So that would, I think, be something to have discussions with representatives from Sarisa when we get to the budget workshop.
And then my last question is, can the county implement this regardless of this resolution?
It could, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it is written as our original contract that our price is based on revenue from Sarisa, so that price would go down.
Okay.
If we became partners, as we said that we would do,
Right.
that then actually more of that percentage, you get a higher percentage of that back into your community to bring the price down also.
Right.
But at this time, we're not a partner.
Yeah, I don't wanna promote an additional expense on the assumption that we're gonna get it back, and then all of a sudden, we're not getting any net savings to our residents who are paying, all of us included, who are paying that surplus.
And we're being proactive.
Bait and switch, you know?
Being proactive also by looking at other services.
No, and I get the whole Sarisa issue, that's like secondary. I just, tax surplus, whatever you wanna call it, it's additional money out of our pocket every month.
But just so the community knows, we are looking at other avenues also
Thank you.
for dispatching. Okay, so we do have a motion. Is there a motion? Not a motion. Well, I'll make the motion in support of just the resolution at this time.
Second.
So we have a motion and second. Any comments or questions from the audience? I see none, bring it back to council. Comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, 2 opposed. Okay, street committee, item J.
So not too long after I started, we had a street committee meeting, actually, I think a couple of street committee meetings, and I think they were very successful and beneficial. One of the things that we were tasked with really was prioritizing a couple of road projects that were coming down the pipeline pretty quickly. I have been working on trying to get a capital improvement plan in place for roads, water, sewer, really pretty much everything that's it's customary for a city to have. So I would like to reconstitute this street committee and hopefully get meeting pretty soon because we are obviously working on the budget. There are several projects that were in the works and some other proposed projects, and I'd really like to be able to, as a team effort, get together and really talk about these projects and get a good capital improvement plan developed as part of that. The previous street committee that we had was Mayor Carnegie, Councilmember Kulka, and Councilmember Winowicki. Typically, a meeting time that we would be looking at is probably sometime during the day. We'd have, obviously, the engineer, DPW director, or superintendent there, as well as myself and possibly the assistant city manager. So looking for up to 3 council members to be a part of this.
Well, I'll be glad to continue it, and I'd also like to start looking at, as we started before, is other means to work on the industrial subdivision and start some projects in there, and I've talked to Mr. Ragsdale also. He's got some ideas too, and yeah, I think it's important to continue this and stay on track and
Yeah, we've
start looking at it.
we've actually had quite a bit of calls from people about the industrial complex, and I'm working with Ragsdale to put together some type of on-site meeting over at the industrial complex, kind of looking for a volunteer business over there that would be willing to kind of host us so that myself and Ragsdale and the engineer could go over there and really kind of take a good look at all the issues that they have over there and the problems and look at the potential of some of the funding options. But that's something we're working on. It's in the process. And potentially the street committee would be a part of that as well.
I know some pretty big business owners I know, so I'd be glad to share them with you.
Would love to have you maybe reach out to some of them and see if they would be willing to host a meeting.
I'm sure they would be glad to. As long as I don't yell at you, right? Councilman Odell.
I'd be willing to be on that committee if the council so chooses.
All those in favor?
Anybody else?
I can't come during the day very often.
Can't do very good.
I'll take it if no one else wants it. I'll be happy to serve.
We have two.
Okay.
Don't
So
all,
all in favor of Councilmember Baranski, Councilmember Odell, and Mayor Carnegie? Say
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries.
There you go.
Item 8 are boards and committee appointments. Is,
The city clerk has prepared a little bit of information regarding some of the boards and commissions. I know that this was kind of a topic of conversation at our last meeting about kind of processes and procedures and kind of why are things taking so long. As a matter of point, we just wanted to make you aware that for the boards and councils, we have a book that I actually recently found. I'm talking about documentation and trying to find it. And I have included that in part of the packet. There is actually a requirement of members for any of the boards to come before council for consideration to be interviewed. And then also in the rules for Planning Commission and for Parks and Recreation Commission, they also have similar requirements that they come before those boards for interview and recommendation to go up to city council for interviews. So what we have before you right now is the Planning Commission and ZBA. We do not have any recommendation yet for Recreation Commission. We've been trying to contact the chair to set a meeting up. I understand she just hasn't been available, so that's something that we unfortunately have not had a meeting yet, so we have not got the recommendation from that board yet. As far as the Planning Commission, the 3 candidates, I believe are
Joanne Barr is here. She's up for reappointment, and Kenny Perry is here, also up for reappointment. The chairman is up for reappointment, but could not make it this evening. And then there was 1 vacancy, and 2 candidates were interviewed, Renee Meyer and Michael Lesich, and Mr. Lesich is not available, but Renee Meyer is here this evening to be interviewed.
I think if we want to start with that, and then we'll go over the ZBA once you get.
I thought we were not going to interview
Yeah.
people. It was recommendations from the commissions themselves.
If you choose to do that, that's fine. There's no
Yeah, I don't want to go
requirement to do.
outside. Personally, I don't want it.
Personally, I'm good.
I would like the boards to make their recommendations, and they come to council and say, we've interviewed these people, and this is who we'd like to see on our board. That would be my position. But I'm only one. Councilwoman Blanket, your light was on first.
Okay, if we start then with the Planning Commission, I noticed, and this is quite unusual, a new name, and that would be Renee Meyer. Are you here, Renee? Thank you for coming to the meeting. You are very, very qualified. You have extensive knowledge in architect and in planning. You know the Michigan Building Code very well. You received your degree from the University of Detroit. You're a 55-year resident.
So,
I would take 55-year-old resident, yes, no. I would, sorry. Sorry, so much for my notes, right? And I just thought I would like to make that your nomination first, because I think it's nice that someone new is coming out and reading all the notices on cable and things. So thank you for doing that, and that's my motion. I'd like to nominate Renee Meyer for
We have a
planning.
motion and a second. Any comments and questions from the audience? Frank, please come forward and identify yourself for the record, please.
hello.
Hi, Frank.
know most of you. My name is Frank Farina. I'm a member of the Planning Commission. I'm Vice Chairman of the ZBA. I'm on the Compensation Commission. We have a handbook that we diligently made up over the last year for both the ZBA and the Planning Commission that outlines the procedure for getting and appointing new members, and that is that the members come before the commissions, and the commission makes a recommendation to council. Now, if council wants to interview people, I'm very much against it, because I don't think any of you have been to the ZBA training meetings and know what goes on at the ZBA or the planning meeting, commission meetings that are held by the state and by McKenna to know what is required there. So the planning commission, first of all, recommended first that the 3 sitting members be reappointed, and second, that both members who were there were equally qualified to represent the open position on the planning commission. So I think that's, one, you need to act on reinstating the people who are on the board, in my mind. I don't mean to be arrogant, but that's my thought. They've done an excellent job. They're there for all the meetings. We work as a group, and there's little or no politics involved in these things. And we want to keep it that way. I'm sorry, but the state wants to keep it that way also. They frown upon city council members coming to meetings because they tend to influence, just by their presence, the meetings and how they're done. So that's what I wanted to say to you guys. Please do not fix something that's not broken. Now, I understand we have an HR person now. If she has a list of questions that she thinks we ought to ask, we'd be glad to ask those questions. So those are my thoughts on that.
So if I can ask you one question, Frank, based on your handbook, do you officially write a letter to the city manager's council saying your recommendations for the people you review, or?
It came across it's in our, if you watch the meeting that we had, it's part of the meeting and the questions that we ask those people, and how we interview those people. And we give that recommendation to the city clerk, and she.
That's why I just want to see your recommendations of who you thought were best for the positions, right?
Right.
Okay, that's all I know. Yep.
And this is Kathy?
Kathy Zarnecki, 31827 Pam Court. I'm also on the Planning Commission. There's a motion from our last meeting, and it is first to please respectfully ask for the reappointment of Ms. Barr, Mr. Perry, and Mr. Warnick. And then when we interviewed the 2 candidates for the vacancy, because we had an equal number of board members, it came out even. So our recommendation to you is to, please determine who should be on the board to fill that vacancy. So
Okay.
we will respect your decision on that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other comments from the audience, questions? Council? I've got a bundle of lights on, so I don't know if that's regarding questions or not. So.
No, that's not on that.
Okay.
I have-
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. No? 2 noes. Motion carries. Next, who's next?
You've got the other 3 reappointments to consider for planning commission.
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt or to approve of the Planning Commission's recommendation to reappoint Joanne Barr, Kenny Perry Jr., and Randy Warnick.
Second, that's what I was going to do.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments and questions from the audience? Any from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Is there another one?
Well, no. No, that's, those.
Nope.
Four.
Nope, that's it. So next we have the zoning.
Oh, wait.
board.
Huh?
On that one, I voted yes. You said 4.
Four appointments.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that,
Wait,
I
what?
wasn't doing the votes, I was doing 4 appointments.
Okay, just making sure we're clear.
How did that vote go down?
One
the
descending.
Okay, that's what, yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
All right.
The mayor
Okay,
descended.
Someone said aye really late, and I was like, is that an aye to the no or an aye to the?
One dissension,
No, there were two no's.
not on the 3 of them, there was only one, that was you.
Oh, I thought,
Wait, I voted
Oh, Patrick.
You voted no on all 3?
Yeah.
On the 3 appointment?
for the group appointment, yes.
You voted no as well?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Oh, so the
There
mayor
was
voted
2.
no.
Yes, there was 2, okay, well, there was 2 and 2 on descending votes.
Yes on everything.
no, I voted no. Second one.
Let's do a,
Let's redo this.
uh-huh.
Ready?
We should be.
Let's redo it, Mike.
Yeah.
Let's at the,
Who's on first?
May I do it first of all?
Yes.
We'll do it on Ms. Meyer?
yes.
Okay. Councilmember Bransky,
Yes.
Councilmember Blanky,
This is on Mrs. Meyer.
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie.
Yes.
Councilmember Odell,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Shornack,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
No.
Councilmember Winawaki.
Yes.
Okay, so then the next one will be on the.
I don't believe this.
Okay, this is on the 3 reappointments. Councilmember Bransky,
Yes.
Councilmember Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
No.
Councilmember Odell,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Shornack,
Yes.
Councilmember Sutherland,
Yes.
and Councilmember Winawaki.
Yes.
We good now?
Thank you very much.
Okay, I have something to say before you.
Okay,
Now that takes us to the ZBA appointments. So we have people up for 2 positions.
2 people for 2 positions.
They're both reappointments.
Who's up for reappointment?
It looks,
Joe Chimenti and Roseanne Menendez.
Yes, they were recommended by ZBA.
By ZBA.
I believe Councilman Blanky, your light was on first.
I just want to take a minute to congratulate Mrs. Joanne Kenny and
Randy. and
Randy
Ms. Meyer.
Warndies, and Renee, welcome to the party. And thank you all for everything that
Yes.
you do. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Councilwoman Shornack.
I would like to make the motion to reappoint Joseph Chimente and Roseanne Menendez to their current board seats on the ZBA. I know they both served on the ZBA for some time now. I know that ZBA, even though I don't go to those meetings, I do know that everybody seems to work very, very well together, and there's a very good communication. So I'd like to keep that going.
Second.
Good.
We have a motion and multiple seconds.
Pick someone.
Any comments or questions from the audience? Back at council, comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
And thank you
Jill.
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you.
for all
Very
of you
much,
for your
Joe, for all
service.
your efforts still.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
You sure can.
It's of Mr. Denault. This is the first I'm hearing that we're discouraged from going to the meetings. And I did go to a ZBA meeting as a resident, and it was quite funny. It was on Zoom, and it was because I wanted to know firsthand where the Starbucks was going. But I certainly was not, it was not my intention to appear in any way to unduly influence or persuade or whatever. Can you kind of clarify for us, and if not today, at some point, because I don't want to infringe or encroach, but at the same time, I'm a resident and I wanted to know.
You can attend.
Yeah, because that's the first I heard that, and I was like, that's kind of a violation of my rights as a citizen, but.
So that isn't something new to me. It is probably a fair characterization from Mr. Farina that, as a general rule, council members are discouraged from going to those meetings and participating in a manner that could or would influence or use your influence because you have the appointment power. I don't think anybody's saying that you're discouraged as residents or as interested observers from sitting in the back of the room and watching the proceedings and understanding how they work. I mean, it's also your role to know that who you appointed is able to do the work of the job of the position. So I think, yeah, discouraged is the right word. but only in the sense of using your position to influence an outcome. In other words, advocating for something, especially if you advocate for something that doesn't really fit the standards that they're charged with reviewing, because both boards have very, very specific criteria they are supposed to find and decide upon. And when they go off the tracks because something is politically favorable or disfavored, either way, that is the discouraged part. And that also makes my job harder because somebody can appeal and challenge those decisions that weren't based on the very specific factors. So we always want their decisions to be by the book. And even if you hadn't asked me this question, I'll volunteer this. I was going to say to you that in all of my experience, if there were such a thing as a statewide Olympics for zoning boards and planning commissions, I would put both of our boards in that competition with a belief that they would make at least the podium. So they are that good at knowing their role and doing great work. So, and that's a factor of good training and good guidance too. So, and longevity. So.
Thank you.
And I hear Frank rules with an iron fist.
So if I'm there, I'm only there to find out the gossip.
So don't ever show up again, or be.
Well, if they were televised, just kidding. A whole nother hot topic.
Okay, item B, Parks and Recreation Master Plan Proposal. Good evening.
Evening. I'm Paul Erbiel. I don't think that I've met all of you, but I know some of you. You had in your packets a revised proposal from me per City Manager Levin's request to provide a proposal to update the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I did speak to City Manager Levin, and I watched your last discussion, and I revised this proposal to try to address the concerns that you had, and to make it more tactical and more to acknowledge that the work that's already been done, and just sort of reframe it as more tactical and less about finding a vision for Parks and Fraser, but also getting input and understanding what the community wants as far as the future of parks, and most importantly, to still make the city, through this process, eligible for MDNR grants for the next 5 years. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposal.
Great. Thank you, Paul. I mean, I looked at it, and I think that you updated what I was kind of looking for, and the importance of getting it submitted and having that copy done. So I have no questions or actions that are needed. Mayor Pro Tem Shornack.
So I just want to be clear, since we've already went through this once today. So this is accurate, and there will not be any other surprises, right?
That's correct. I did write in there, and I don't foresee that this is a problem, but I did write in there that, the first time around I was framing this as a little bit more original investigation, and this proposal is based on existing knowledge. There are certain requirements, and I don't see or foresee any information that isn't there or that we can't pull from the updated plan, but there's a certain amount of relying on the city staff to share information and understand exactly what it is, so that all the information that goes in there is MDNR compliant. So, but yes, with that sort of qualification, the answer to your question is yes, this is all it is.
Because if you come back next month and say it's going to be 10 grand more, you know what's going to happen.
That will
right?
not happen.
All right. Just saying.
I know these guys.
Yeah. I'm not going.
Councilman Odell.
Since we don't have Parks and Rec employees currently, other than Senior Center, will you be able to tap into that knowledge with I think all we have is the Assistant City Manager that's really heading that up. Do you think you'll be able to get an effective report?
I think so, yes. And my understanding was, so in the first time around, we were sort of getting at some more broad public engagement to sort of supplement that. There still is a survey that I think we can get a solid idea we'll work with the assistant city manager and the rest of the administration to formulate that survey. But I think we can still get a solid idea of needs and get this step done.
How long do you foresee this taking to complete if we approve it tonight?
Typically, I think it's 6 months is a typical process, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilwoman Baranski.
I want to thank you for revising and honing in a little bit more what we were looking for. To me, I equate this sort of like, I can do my taxes, and for years and years I do my taxes, and then it's good to go to an expert, and wow, they find all kinds of stuff out. And so although maybe in the past we did do it, and I know in the past when Councilmember Blanky did it, services were provided for free, and it's a different world now, and I get that, and she was able to tap into some vendors, but I don't see a downside to this, especially for grant money. It's a necessary expense to ensure we can capitalize on our grant funding going forward, and it's also a perfect time to figure out what this city's going to look like from the Parks and Rec perspective. So in that regard, I'll make the motion to approve the Parks and Recreation Master Plan proposal as revised.
Second.
Also, it could actually enhance breaking barriers too, knowing that our plan's already done and approved or in process for their grant writing for stuff too, so.
I agree, and I think that program could help inform this process as well and set up what future needs, plan for those future needs as they prove concepts short term.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any comments and questions? Councilwoman Blanky, your lifetime?
I just, I think we do need this professionally done more than ever because of the, we've had, a bridge in the communication and the welfare, not the welfare, but the participation of recreation. And we really don't have a director right now or anyone that's that familiar with the community. And again, like everyone knows, all we need is to get one grant or whatever, and it's a wash, so it's money well spent. And as the others said, I echo, thank you for tweaking it, and you better listen to Patrice, okay? Thank you so much.
Any other comments or questions? I see none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Paul.
Thank you. Thank you for sticking.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry it took so long.
Somerset Park Hall Equipment Options.
Hello again. So some returning business in front of you. As the council is aware, we had an issue with some residents that their properties backed up against Somerset Park due to the playground equipment that was installed. So this is an ongoing issue. I brought forth multiple options for the council last council meeting, and the directive I was given was to pursue installing some solid panels on the playground equipment, providing it did not void the warranty. So the manufacturer was contacted. They did send us a letter stating that it would not void the warranty. Then the mayor was kind enough to meet Melissa and myself out on the site so we could come up with a plan for the berm that we had discussed and how we would do the arborvitaes. So what I wanted to do was get a Google Earth shot, but unfortunately Google Earth was not updated until, or the last update was June of 19. So the new playground equipment is not on Google Earth. So what you have is pictures that I took with my cell phone and drew in with a magic marker.
Your artwork is commendable.
So the point of the drawing is for you to get the gist of what is going on. The mayor and Melissa and I, all three, were on the same page. We're going to extend the border, put a back border against the fence so no dirt falls through the fence, build up a nice little berm, therefore we don't have to have as taller trees, therefore it's going to bring the cost of the trees down. So I would imagine, to the best of my knowledge, that 10 trees will work. And Ms. Bransky had mentioned possibly staggering the trees in the height so that they're not all one level, whereas one person wasn't getting special treatment. So if we use two 16-foot trees, two 14-foot trees, two 12-foot trees, two 10-foot trees, and two 8-foot trees, start in the middle and tear their way down, we're looking at $2,800 for the trees minus shipping. Shipping's between $950 and $1,450. The cost of the panels is $6,745. So that's
Panels
just
are that
under 11 grand. That's not counting the couple pieces of border and what it costs to have the wood chips blown in. So that is my recommendation. And I'm assuming along with the mayor, since he was out there with us. In front of you also have the cost of the trees, so you can get an idea of what they are per 2-foot size. And you also have the actual estimate for the part piece. Not to mention, Ms. Shornack, that also includes replacing the telescope that got stolen. Yep. So I'll take any questions.
And also too, that back area from the playscape to the fence where the trees are, Ms. Regdale's gonna put mulch and chips there, so there's no maintenance to do anymore with lawnmowers going back and forth and around it and all that, so it's almost like, when we talked that on site, it's almost like you're just making a green belt for that whole playscape. It looked really, really nice, so.
How much was the trees again?
$2,800 for the trees. The trees. That's not including the shipping.
Okay. So roughly about a little over 10 to 11 grand or?
It's it'll be 11 grand minus the wood chips and the border.
I can't believe those panels were that much money. That just blows my mind.
And it would be like a pyramid, kind of a pyramid with the smaller trees.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I can't believe that.
And that cuts down the cost of the trees, right?
Right. You have the cost of the trees there in front of you. You can see every 2 foot they go up.
I know. Do we have to buy it from them, or are they voiced warranty?
Mayor Pro Tem Shornack.
So I just want to be clear, besides the three of you, you did speak with the residents that live there, right?
When we were out there or before?
I don't care when, just
We
that
did
you had a
before.
conversation that they were like, okay, they felt like this would be a good compromise.
No. What we had the conversation with is that we would do something about it. We have not had a conversation with the homeowners,
Okay, 'cause
with.
I think I was like really clear about that.
We decided against
No, yeah,
council, we decided against it.
yeah.
That we weren't going
That you wouldn't run this by them. They live there.
No, because then you're gonna create
There's
everything.
precedents that anybody.
I don't know. I think
Why don't you find out
we
what?
should include them, but.
They were
Okay.
included previous to this.
Absolutely.
There was extensive.
Well, yeah, no,
There was
I know.
extensive conversations previously.
Offers.
I mean,
and
I feel like it's a very good compromise, but again, I don't live there, and so.
And he has communicated that some other things that he was addressing, he's had some health things going on, so he will be addressing those things. And that was after our visit, that he will be addressing those when he can, medically, so.
Okay, so then my other question is this: what's the warranty on the trees?
I don't know that I have that for you.
probably 1 year.
Well, I would like to see at least a warranty, because I mean, if you go to,
Typically it's a year.
I was gonna say, because if you go to even Home Depot or Lowe's, and because I have some, I put some up so my idiot dogs would stop barking. That didn't work, by the way, but.
I can
put them
send you
up.
an email. If you like, I can send you all an
Yeah,
email.
I just want to
but
know that we have at least a 1-year warrant, like a
Typically,
whole
that's what it
season.
is a
Yeah.
year.
Because those trees, I've seen them everywhere, right? And I see like some strive, and then like you'll
Some
have
are
like.
brown.
Yeah, you'll see like 25, and then all of a sudden you'll see like 3 just, ironic, just misplaced and dead, and I just, yeah. Just want to make sure
Councilwoman Baranski.
we're spending that kind of money.
So I have a couple questions. I did not propose the staggering. What I proposed was extending them along the entire fence to increase the green space so that it beautified the entire park. So it wasn't just a privacy, but it made it more of a park-like setting. But you are hitting the nail on the head in terms of, so it's not a criticism.
Sorry, I misunderstood you then.
No, don't worry about it, because so I have two questions for you.
Yep.
How many houses are covered by this proposal?
That would be 2.
So it's just 2 houses.
Yes, and if you were actually out on site, and the mayor can speak for that as well, it makes perfect sense to stop right there. The next house has the arborvitaes themselves on their side of the fence.
Oh, I get that,
Okay.
but they may also like an additional buffer.
And we have a big tree that would,
Well, I see that.
Yes, because then now you're running into the shade of the big tree.
Oh, and I get that,
Okay.
but I guess that, I did go out on my own. I didn't get the special invite, but.
Oh.
Just kidding. It's not a criticism. It's a joke.
But I think.
No, you're okay. That's fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about it, because it's a compromise, and that's fine. Because there's a couple of ideas that I had, one of which is I would love to see, do this, but I want them all the same. I don't want this, no, because you'd go smaller. You don't do any 16-foots. Do whatever, 8, whatever, like we talked about. But then let's put in for a grant, because green space is, the one thing we have always gotten is trees every year. Now, granted, they were this, but let's find a grant to get green space to make this the rest of the way, not at our expense. That's what I would like to task you with for the next year or two. Not tomorrow, not next week.
I just want to be clear. Do you want them tapered, or do you
Well,
want?
we haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
We gotta figure that out.
Okay.
So my next question is, in this plan, are you pulling out this so that you're extending, or is this gonna be the blue divider? It's gonna stay there, and then there's gonna be wood chips on either side?
Yes.
Okay, so it's sort of a stop, and then there'll be wood chips. Okay. got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so my only issue is I would just, from a visual perspective, I would rather do all the same so that if we can build, because even if we don't go all the way to the tree, even if we do 2 more houses and then we do, but, there's, and at some point, maybe that tree dies, and I would like to see, instead of seeing a fence, a metal fence, I'd like to see a green fence, a green barrier, thank you. That's just me when I'm beautifying my parks. And especially if we're gonna start here, it can be a start, next phase, so. But I am fine with the compromise, but why are we doing these panels for $7,000? That's my third question. That's a lot of money, but hold on before I get there, because most important, Don, did you review and concur that whatever the documentation we got will in fact be valid to extend the warranty from a legal perspective to the city?
Yes, I did look at the warranty language, the letter from the manufacturer. I think, lawyer to lawyer, you know what I'm going to say.
I know.
I can't give you 100% guarantee. There's no way.
You're fired.
Right? There's no way.
No, I get that, but were you satisfied?
I can tell you that I'm extremely confident that they would honor the warranty and would not try to finagle their way out for so long as authorized personnel install it, which would be their
them.
people.
Yep.
Right? I believe there was. Wasn't there,
And that's why we're paying the $1,500 to guarantee the warranty, right? For the
right.
installation.
And there was one more provision that as long as we make sure we follow it.
Perfect.
To be installed in accordance with the instructions that come with it. Those were the only two outs I was worried about. But if they're doing the work and they're installing it,
Okay.
I can't give you 100%. I can never give you 100%.
I get that.
Because they're not amending the original contract documents. They're just giving us a letter saying we'll honor it. You know about the 4 corners of the law, the 4 corners of the document, the whole contract law stuff that I'm sure you're well aware of. But for all the rest of you, when a contract exists, the courts will not typically look outside the 4 corners of the document unless there's some ambiguity. So a letter saying the warranty will be fine, it's not 100% foolproof. I think in this case it's pretty close, but I can't ever give you 100%.
So then the only remaining question I have, I know,
I can answer that question for you.
is the panels at $6,700, at $6,700, gonna stop the kids from doing what they're doing?
yes.
Yes.
It would stop them from climbing outside and creating possible injuries, but I just think it's.
Okay, that's just a lot of money for a couple of metal or plastic panels.
So the panels should stop the kids from a safety standpoint from climbing outside the structure.
Right.
But the panels are not going to stop the kids from hanging out and Googling the.
No, right,
You know,
that is what that is.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a lesson learned.
I mean, that's just a liability if the city wants.
No, right, I get it.
So, that's all it is. It's, unfortunately.
Luckily, the
they would
law's on
des-
our side there, but,
I think they would have designed it that way
Yeah.
purposely where they can't.
Law's on no one's side.
yeah, no, I just,
Exactly.
oh, 100%.
So
Even the morons.
So my compromise, I guess, I would just, I know, I'm not trying to micromanage, but because of fear of dying, and because my goal is to eventually make that a full green space, I'd rather just see the same height. But that's just me.
it doesn't matter to me. It's whatever you guys want. But
These are
I just
relatively priced pretty well. I mean, pricing for the trees, so. I mean, I don't have any issue bringing the tallest ones down a little bit, make it straight, but, you know, aesthetically, when we just stood back, it kind of was kind of nice just for that area, but it don't matter to me. Councilwoman Sutherland.
So I'm with Patrice that I thought we were going to loop in the resident. I actually might want to go back and watch that last meeting because I remember the conversation, but I don't remember it ever coming to like a decision of like, we were not going to contact this resident. I actually.
We can now if we want, but I did think it was just to not influence another, like, well, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, let's do this, and it's just create a whole thing outside the box. I don't
This was
think
all
there's any
brought
issue
on
at all.
because of the concerns,
You know.
right, from the resident, so.
At least we're addressing his concerns where most cities probably wouldn't.
If it addresses it.
Yeah, I think it does.
I'm with Amy that, you know, I think I wasn't invited to the park either, but I did go on my own. And, you know, so to put the trees in front of two houses and then have them be on the other side of the fence for one house, you know, just going out there and looking at it, it needs to go across the entire fence line if we're gonna go this route. It would look really spotty and awkward if we didn't do that. For shipping costs, it seems like a lot of money to ship trees. I mean, I've never had trees shipped, so I don't really know, but can we go pick up the trees? Is there like a tree farm close by where we could save $1,400?
well,
When you
Go grab
transport
some of the trees are 16 foot tall, so
tree or any type of a tree, you risk wind burn on them. So you have to be really, really careful. If you're bringing them up here from Ohio and they're not protected the right way, and they experience wind burn, the minute you plant it, it's going to die.
absolutely.
It's not going to survive.
There's no other local tree places where we could reduce the concern of wind
There's-
burn
Well,
to.
they do say up at the top of their thing that they're shipping them from locally as much
Okay.
as they can, and then
Okay.
then they're bringing them in from
So
other.
that's an estimated shipping cost? It could be less because, I mean, it's half of the price of the trees.
That's what he told us.
Yeah.
It's $950 to $1,450.
Right, and the trees are 2,800, right? So,
So if you want to do two more houses, it's double the price, that's all.
yeah.
Well, you're going to have a minimum charge, right?
We're back to where we were before.
Maybe we could put trees along another house for the cost of that shipping. Just a thought, if there's any way to do anything about that or find somewhere else just while we're doing this. And then,
The one thing I would say, though, if you do decide to have us run the trees all the way down the line, some of them are probably going to die because they're not going to get any sunlight because it's going to be underneath that big shade tree. So that's why the mayor and I were out there, and
sun doesn't stay in one spot.
Cedars are really sensitive.
No,
They've-
those trees died.
Those trees have lots of leaves. The big
Just because I'm always in that park. Like,
These are
I would just say, just take it to
trees that
the
have a
end.
huge canopy.
Right, no, yeah,
Take it just to the end of
been
where the
there.
equipment is, where the houses are, because that'll still look good. Take it like where the park ends, like the equipment ends.
that's what we did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because honestly, if you
So
don't,
you're saying all the way, not just that equipment, but all of the equipment?
no.
You're saying all the way to the.
No,
like
I'm talking on the
Somerset
fence
Pool?
line.
Like that way?
Yeah, no, I'm talking on the fence line. Just put them right where so from,
That's what he
basically from the
has.
edge of Somerset, yes, from the edge of Somerset to the house over here next to the resident, over here. Because if, those houses are the only ones really affected by the park equipment anyway.
This
No, I
is
know,
two
I'm saying- I'm
houses. How
saying-
many houses are you saying to cover?
I think that's 3 backyards.
Some of
Two.
those, one of the
No.
houses has trees on it,
inside, yeah.
On the inside, so the privacy isn't as.
2?
Well, they resolved their own problem on their own time.
Just to that, well, I'm just saying, like, basically, it's what you have, but to the edge of where the equipment ends.
That's what it
Okay,
is.
then that, yeah, because honestly, anything after that, there are too many trees, and they will die, guaranteed.
This covers the fence from the pool all the way to the edge of the
Exactly.
end of the play space. The whole place.
Yeah, just that should be, yeah. That's what I was thinking it would be.
It is.
So then just one last thing too. So previously, when I was on the Parks and Recreation Commission, we talked about, making changes to these structures so that the kids couldn't climb out on the outside. It wasn't just the warranty. Vince had advised me that it was also a potential insurance issue. So I just want to make sure that that got vetted out as well, that there's not going to be any problems with the insurance for the city if we make modifications to the structure, even if it's covered by the vendor.
No, that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Okay.
Because it makes it safer.
Councilman Odell.
In theory.
I'd be in support of the trees and replacing the telescope. I really don't think the panels are necessary. I mean, that's just my thought. I'd be in favor of that, but I don't think the panels are necessary. It's approved playground equipment, major manufacturer, has all the warranties.
Patrick, you need to go there during the day and watch these kids on the outside of these things.
It's all kids, though.
bullying.
That's all
I'm
kids.
not, I'm simply just telling
I'm
him.
gonna stick up for you because I'm with you.
When you're 7, you think you're a daredevil, and that's going to be on any equipment.
I'm just telling
But
you, they
I'm just saying,
literally hang
Haven't
off
been
of it.
sued yet.
I'm just saying that's my personal,
No, I know.
personal opinion.
Well, let's take a motion on the trees first and then do the panels second. How about that?
Make a motion.
Okay, I'll make the motion on the trees as submitted, but try to level them off a little bit better,
Okay.
where it's not dramatic.
I'll second
Amy,
that.
would that be okay?
Yeah, just do them all the same, but not the highest. So I don't know, what did you have, 16, 14, 12?
What size would you like?
There's a
13
point.
is fine.
13, okay, then 13.
13s? Okay.
Because we're going to
13's
build a
all even on
berm
the
anyways, right? Got a foot berm, so we're going to be,
Those grow relatively quick, too. So
that's my motion for the trees.
I'll second.
But is that just covering those from some
This
of
is
the
the
pool?
It's from the pool all the way to the end of the
We can
play
always
space.
add more later, but at least that solves some of the problems now.
So, okay, so we're going to go with 13 feet and we good?
Gotta
with
vote.
the area?
There's a vote.
Well, I'm just saying, before we vote, are we,
Gonna be some negatives.
Yeah, the berm, the chips, the
Yep.
thing, from the pool all the way to the end of the playscape.
okay.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
I did.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
2 opposed? Okay. And if someone wants to make a motion on the,
I'll make a motion that we install the panels on the equipment for many reasons, but major is to keep these kids from climbing on the outside. It's 100% worth it to me because I've seen these kids do this repeatedly. So
I second. I've seen it too.
we have a motion and second. Any other comments or questions on the motion? Any from the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Any opposed?
No.
No. Motion fails.
okay.
So
I'm going to look at y'all and say,
I'm a little confused because the last time I was here, correct me if I'm wrong, but my directive was to order the panels as long as it didn't change the warranty.
I think the shock is the amount of money to do something to this play structure that was designed anyway and it's relatively,
Okay, so I'm gonna have to contact the manufacturer and see because when, I
because I
don't know
thought
if
we
it-
said yes too.
Right.
Did we have?
Because I gave them the order to go ahead and order the panels because that was the directive I was given by the
Really
council.
we didn't have a price.
Did we have that price?
Yes, you did.
Did we?
Yes, you did.
We may have, I have no idea.
Absolutely.
Well, if we already approved it, I will fall on the sword and change my vote, because I'm with him. I didn't see that was just the panels for that cost. So, do you recall from the minutes last time?
You have the minutes in your packet.
Do you have? No, you didn't have
I remember it being a yes.
5 and 6.
Because you gave us a couple different options, and that's the one we said to go fly with.
Right, because you guys decided to go with both the panels
And the tree.
and the trees, providing the panels didn't void the warranty.
Right. That was Amy, provided they wouldn't.
Oh, right.
Right.
So did we approve it?
It was subject to that, though.
Did we even take a vote? I didn't even think we took a vote.
I don't see a motion in the meeting minutes here at all.
So would you like me to contact the manufacturer and see if they've,
When did you order them?
I would have to go back and look, but it was after I got the notification that it didn't void the warranty.
Well,
I would bet that they have not started the manufacturing on that yet, just because all these supply people are way behind.
Okay.
and the only other thing I would say is,
Yeah, it doesn't look like in the minutes that anything was actually agreed.
right, we didn't give approval until we had confirmation that what you received doesn't, and so it's just a learning curve. We're learning how to do this. To me, it wasn't approved until we voted today, because just like when you sent me that letter, I immediately forwarded it to Don and said, Don, I'm going to defer to you because you're the municipal attorney. And so if you say it's okay, then I'm comfortable as a council person, such that we would then vote for it. So I would just ask that if we give direction for clarification, the expectation for me is that it comes back to council to finalize. Unless we are very clear that whatever it is, not to exceed.
I apologize, but the way I took it was, my directive was to proceed with the panels as long as providing it didn't void the warranty. And that's
And
what
we're
I
going to
did.
learn how to communicate, and so it's.
I will reach out tomorrow and see if they've been ordered yet or not.
And if there's an issue, come back.
Because I think we would want to know too, like if we're going to have to pay something. So like if we're to cancel.
Bingo,
it,
then-
They're going to charge us $2,000 still if we cancel it. Like that could change some,
It will change.
Maybe that'll change some minds.
could.
Could.
I said maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe is
Does that make sense, what we're saying?
So do we need to?
Yeah, okay, in a real world, but guess what? That's not our real world anymore. And it's sad, but it's true.
Or Don, do we need a revised motion?
No,
But somebody would,
you and I both know you'll find an attorney to dirty it up.
even if we're not liable, someone could still die.
Let's see.
With Eddie equipment.
Well, that could be with your car.
Thanks for your,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Everyone have a good evening.
Post this.
Could be right here, this chair.
Item now, 9, report of city administration.
What did you say?
Where did everybody go?
They said. We got two. Yeah.
Remember how full it was when we came out of closed session? It was full.
Done.
Nah, it was just mainly the ZBA and the planning, so.
All right,
We
so
got one resident on the screen hanging strong. I see him.
Your husband?
My husband.
Know him. He's asleep at home.
Because of the resident thing or because you're the wife?
He's probably sleeping. Yeah.
Mine's not even watching it, so what can I say?
All right, so I received a question about the status of Meadows Park and what's going on there. I did speak with Ragsdale about that, and he said that Midstate still has some final punch list items to do, including restoration and pouring the remainder of the concrete. They will be working on it in spring once the ground has an opportunity to kind of firm up. The Department of Public Safety will be receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award from Macomb County Medical Control Authority for their support over the last couple of years due to COVID. This will be taking place tomorrow about 9:30 in the Fire Bay, if anyone is interested in attending. It may get started a little bit earlier than that, so maybe plan on being there 9:15 if you're interested in attending. I am, as I mentioned earlier, working with Ragsdale and setting up a meeting in the industrial complex regarding the condition of the streets. We have received a number of calls from many people out there. I think we all know and realize the state of the streets and certainly the state of our funding. Those are city-owned streets, so there isn't, unfortunately, a lot of support from like say federal or county, because they are completely under our ownership. Assistant City Manager Sarah Mistretta has been talking to Sterling Heights Parks and Recreation, working on a collaborative project, and they have agreed to give us discounted pricing for youth basketball and softball. I'm sorry, baseball and softball, yes. She will be continuing to work with them and see if there's any other opportunities for collaboration. I know that she's been reaching out to some other neighboring communities as well. I think some of the council members have been doing that too, and that's kind of what's spawned a lot of this. So certainly excited about the opportunities, especially even with what was here tonight and was approved. So everyone, I think, is looking forward to moving forward and getting Parks and Rec and momentum and things going, and I would definitely say we're moving in the right direction on that. Another question I received was regarding senior transportation and some of the van ridership statistics. We have a list of about 100 people that actively utilize this service, typically generating about 30 runs or so a week. So obviously fluctuating from week to week, and hoping that things are going to start ramping up as we're kind of appearing to come out of COVID a little bit, and with the weather turning around, I think that that will probably start ramping up. I am working on a performance review form. We did receive one from Amy Sell before she left. It wasn't really what we were looking for, so Sarah was able to take a look at a couple more. We're still working on really finding the right one that's going to work the best for the city. Hoping in the next month or so to start doing the performance reviews so that we can start moving forward with that process that likely has been shelved for, I would say, a number of years. Also have been spending a lot of time working on the budget. Certainly it is a very labor-intensive process and involves a lot of people doing a lot of historical research and looking at all of the line items going back a number of years. When I was working with the department heads, the budgets that I sent them, I gave them kind of the 3-year tally because I didn't really think that like the last year and maybe even the last 2 were really a fair representation of how things had been normally run. Not necessarily that means that things are going to go back to how they were, but there were a lot of very odd different things over the last year or so because of COVID. So they have provided me their budgets. I have imported those, and I'm starting to finalize some of those numbers. I will be meeting with the department heads next week and reviewing those. So the way that I typically do a budget is I have the requested budget from the department heads. That will be something that you will have that information, and then I meet with them individually, and at that point I have my bottom line number and I know what I am working towards, which is a balanced budget. So I'll be working with them and trying to determine really what is a need versus a want, and obviously staffing is going to be a large component of that as well. Part of the process for the budget, have our budget workshop that you guys approved through consent agenda is set for Thursday, March 31st. If for some reason we want to spend a little bit more time, an alternate date is that following Monday, which I believe is April 4th. The next process after that is we would have the public hearing in April, so that is another opportunity for you to spend time really further refining the budget. And then in May is when, not statutorily, per our charter, we're required to adopt that budget. The date that we have for our meeting in May gives us a little bit of wiggle room if for some reason we can't quite get to consensus for approval, so we would still have the following Monday as an alternate date for further discussion and adoption of that budget. Obviously, that's a constraint of charter, so penalties if we do wind up going a little bit further than that. I'll just leave it at that. Other than that, still working with the library on their potential options moving forward, working within the constraints of kind of their budget and what they're looking for a building. One of the questions that I did receive is about the potential for bonding, and I'll be contacting a bonding agent to see really if the library were to bond for improvements to a building or purchase of a new building, if that would fall under our restrictions for the amount that we can be bonded, and if it is something that is an option for us, or if we're already kind of at that limit for our bondability. I think that's pretty much all I have. I'm going to be working really hard next week, so forgive me if I'm a little delayed in getting back to you if you have any questions. My time is going to be very tied up with working on the budget next week. I hope to get it to you no later than a week before the budget workshop, but as early as next Thursday. So it's going to be very different. I hope you guys like it. I think you will find it a lot easier to deal with because there are really notes throughout instead of separate spreadsheets, separate presentations. I think there's a lot more information, and it's really a lot more user-friendly, both for council when you guys are making the decisions and also for staff and department heads when they're really utilizing the budget.
Great. Perfect. Good update. Thank you. Councilmember.
Yes, can I just ask, the budget, as you're preparing it, are you preparing it with 0 mills, or what mills are you preparing the budget with as it relates to PA 33?
I have not done the revenue portion yet with Sarah. So the great thing about the way that we'll be working on the budget is that it'll be fluid and kind of live time with BSNA. So what I will be able to do is we'll be able to, if you decide that you want more or less, we'll be able to actually like change that line item and see how it impacts the bottom line lifetime.
Because in the past, what we always did was we started with a 0 mill budget so that the residents could see the ramifications and then see and justify the need. So I know, and I've already told the mayor this, I'm going to be pushing to lower those again. It was 9 to 5 to 3.9, and I'm going to be pushing. You know, I have to see the revenue first, obviously, but the one struggle we had in the past was we would get a budget that had 9 mills because we did 9 last year, and I'm assuming you guys are going to be the same way. Is no assumptions about what we as a council are going to do to the residents as it relates to the budget.
So
That's the way we have to do it.
Yeah.
So one of my main requirements in my position is that I prepare and provide to you a balanced budget. So that's one of the things that I have to do is I have to look at everything, take it all into consideration, the department head budgets, their requests, their needs versus their wants, the revenue stream, how much we need. So I will likely work with Sarah when I am working on that bottom line to present something. As I said, it is going to be so much easier and more flexible. It's not going to be, hang on, we need to come back to another meeting to be able to rework the numbers. We're going to be able to do it like live time. So it will be, I think, a whole lot easier. You'll be able to have the flexibility. 9, okay, let's take it down to 8, let's take it down to 7, and see those numbers change instantly.
Yeah, we should have that prep for when we have our workshop or the meeting about it, so it's
Yep, we will.
in front of us, everyone's there, departments is here. We can- Like you said, we talked about it. Plug things in and boom, there it is.
Yep.
So that's the important part.
And I'm trying to
We'll
get it
back
to
with
you.
We'll
Oh, yeah.
We don't have time for that, it's just,
We have to do a deep dive.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to you as early as I possibly can. So I'm spending really just 95% of my time working on the budget.
as Councilwoman Ransky said, 0 mills is a good start, but you do have to give us a balanced one, but that's when you may have to come and say, well, PA 33 with 2 will give me a balanced budget or whatever, but
Yeah, and so,
got it.
so in the future, I would hope to be able to work on the budget schedule a little bit earlier. So when we had that meeting in January, we were talking about this earlier today, when we had that meeting in January, that would be a great opportunity for us to really talk about kind of some of the goals for the budget, what it is that you're looking for. Do you want to pay down debt? Do you want to increase our surplus? Do you want to make a lot of capital purchases? Do you want to work on getting rid of some of these other millages? So that's something next year I'll be working further ahead in the budget.
Love it.
Good. Okay. What's that?
Okay. I would like to, one of the things that we had started about a year and a half ago is we kind of did lunches with the city manager, and it was 2 or 3 council members and the city manager, and so I did 2 maybe. And I think it was a really good opportunity for us to have those kind of conversations ahead of time so that, you know, we can collaborate without making decisions about what your vision is and what my vision is, and how do we get where we get, and what do you need from us and what do we need from you in an informal setting. So I would love to see those re-implemented, and I know that you're busy, and I know you have a lot, and it doesn't have to be with you each time, but...
I'm kind of retired, so.
Oh, okay. So, but I would love, I think it was very successful. I know I did one.
It was. I enjoyed it. We used to call it lunch with the mayor or whatever it was, but I used to
Yeah.
buy lunch for whoever came, and we would do a different place in the city, or bring it in or whatever,
Yeah.
but.
You couldn't come to lunch. But so I think it was very beneficial because it gave us that ability to have that interpersonal connection and conversation that you're busy, so we don't want to, well, I don't want to call you during the day because I don't know what you're working on, but, you know, I would come with a note. So I would love to see that restarted again. I also want to commend, although we didn't get to the park signs today, I really want to commend Mr. Ragsdale for the packet that he gave us, and I get that, you know, I agree that it was definitely good, but looking at this, I think home run. I'm very excited to talk about it next month and really just check it off. So thank you for doing that. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, I apologize that I wasn't able to get you all 3 bids.
Oh, it's okay.
But one of the estimators come down with COVID.
Yep.
And then their dad actually got the packet to me late last night. That's the
Yep.
one you got there. And then I had one of the ladies cancel on me, and I actually got an appointment with her tomorrow morning.
Good, perfect. And we're fluid. We're not naive to the same thing happens in our personal lives. And, you know, my daughter just texted and said she got COVID. Okay. You know, she's at college though. So, like, we're fluid, but I just wanted to let the residents know we're not just adjourning it. No, I know, trust me. Literally, I'm like, oh my gosh. But she's in Ann Arbor, so I haven't seen her in a while. Trust me. Sorry. That's all right. But. Right? Listen, I'm just giving you notice now. I will go and test when I get home.
When you haven't been around her.
No, right. Also, I want to commend Sarah for giving us the data points for the senior programs. And I actually just reached out to Mary about another data point. Data is going to help us formulate things. So as silly as it is, when we know the numbers, then we can see opportunities for growth. So I want to thank Sarah for that. I would like to put on an upcoming agenda, not next month necessarily, but sooner than later. I think it's important, and we haven't done it since I've been on council, that we rebid our vendors. We've got attorneys, we've got builders, we've got contractors, construction, so, you know, engineering, the building department, the attorneys. I'd like to see, I think it's time to reevaluate, not because anyone's doing bad, but maybe we can find opportunities for savings. And also, I know, you know, I have to do that in my own private sector, and, you know, it makes you reevaluate and make sure that we're getting the services that we need and the services we want. So I'd like that to be within the next quarter or 2, maybe, you know, I get budget as primary, so I'm not asking for it next month or anything. And it's not a reflection of anything other than that is a opportunity we haven't looked at yet for cost savings. So I think that's important to consider.
To be honest with you, I started that before this budget with some of the main ones and talked to a couple people just to see how the services were, if there
Right.
were major issues.
Right.
Because we needed to do that, because it's been 3 years, I think, since we've done that.
Yeah, I know it's,
And the problem with doing it then is, and I was very upset with the city manager because that was part of the plan to do them all, but people picked and choose which ones they were gonna do.
Right, right.
And then that just wasn't right. And then you hear it, well, it's too late now because we have budget's due in a month, so now we don't have time to do it. So it would be something that we should do and start looking at even for be proactive for the next budget.
Yep. The last thing, or the next thing, I want to make sure that, and I want to task you, Elaine, I want to task all of our department heads or whoever is in charge. Our employees should be doing what they are supposed to do. They should be working the hours they're scheduled to work. They should be doing the job they're scheduled to do. There shouldn't be any ambiguity going forward. My secretary gets to work 8 hours, that's it. End of discussion. I am not allowed to ask her to work 1 second over because that would generate overtime. And I want to have that same business model in the city. Exceptions occur, catastrophes occur in the DPW or whatever, but we just have to make sure every single opportunity we're monitoring. And I'm not saying we're not, I don't want to be in a situation where suddenly we have to, cost overruns here or cost overruns there, or someone's doing something and, no one said anything. So just let's be mindful of that. And then the last thing, the FAME Awards nominations are open through April 8th. So I hope that people, that's the Fraser, through the East Point, Roseville Chamber of Commerce, it's the Fraser Awards for businesses and individuals. It's a really cool thing. I hope everyone goes online. I send it to you. If it's not on our website, get it on our website. I know my daughters have been the recipients of the Youth of the Year for their volunteer activities, and they do a really nice job. So I would love to recognize our businesses and our individuals, and hope that everyone will consider nominating various people. It's open through April 8th. And that, I think, is it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Me?
Absolutely.
All right. So I just wanted to say congratulations to all of the board members and commissioners that were reappointed or newly appointed tonight. Congratulations again to now Captain Gillis on his promotion. That's very exciting. And, Amy covered a lot of things that I was thinking too. So, right? Yeah. No, but it was just really good to have so many residents here tonight. I mean, I know a lot of it was for the boards and commissions, but it was really nice having so many people here and engaged. And I feel like the energy in the room was different. So for the one person that's still on, or maybe anybody who, listens to this tomorrow and the upcoming days, take the opportunity to come in and let yourself be heard. It was really nice to see more faces in the room, and it would be great to see that going forward, so.
It was a good meeting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No.
All right. A couple things. I was at ribbon cutting for the new owners of Jazzercise this last weekend. They had a huge turnout. I really hope they do well. The owners are very active in Fraser, and it was a great event and woman-owned business. So we need more of those, and we really want to make them successful. So please check them out. Support your local businesses. We had a sellout for the Blue Jean Ball. Several of you up here were there and helping and donating, and it was very successful. And we want to thank the community for continually supporting us in that regards. As far as budget is concerned, we talked a lot about the budget tonight. I mean, on the other side of the aisle here, look, we had financials that used to go out every month rather than just what we spent. We just now got our audit, so we know what happened a long time ago. Going into budgets, I would like to know where we're at now. So I'd like to see, even if you have John Walters or something, put something with finance. No. Oh, okay. Well, I was.
Sorry, we're pretty much done with John Walters.
Okay.
We're just finishing up with some things for his assistance for the audit. Right. Sarah's really stepped in and is.
Yeah, so maybe go back and check, see what was sent out before. It gives a good snapshot of where we're at right now. We're almost near the end of the year going forward. I want to see where we're going than where we've been. I mean, where we've been tonight is good. The city's on a much better financial footing, and making those decisions going forward, having a clear picture where we're at now is beneficial. And then also thank Councilman Shornack. We've been exploring some longer-term alternatives for Parks and Recreation and continuing to do that. And hopefully we will have some good news for residents down the road here that will be beneficial for everyone in our city and making our dollars work better. So we look forward to doing that, but I want to thank her for helping spearhead that as well. So that's all I have.
Good.
So I agree again with Councilwoman Baranski about bidding out our vendors. What really hit me heavy today was again AEW, and it sounds like I'm on a witch hunt with AEW, but I'm going to tell you, AEW has made a lot of money off of us. They keep re-engineering every single project. When you can go to a file drawer and pull out something that was very similar, and yes, you can cut and paste effectively to make a good bid and really cut your engineering costs down. And it just seems to me that every single project that they've had, their contingency fee is high. There shouldn't be contingencies. If you're working with the vendor's going to quote something, quote it. That's it. That's your bottom line. There shouldn't be a 25% contingency or $25,000 or whatever. And to re-engineer, and now we're re-engineering all the HVAC in this building, and I get that, but we're buying units, and then we're going to revise those units based on the recommendation of another company that they brought in. Why did we bring in another company, and we're still paying AEW on top of that? So it's one of those things that ever since I've been on council and all the things that I've seen with AEW, we keep spending and overspending on a lot of engineering costs. And that's why I was rogue today and I said, nope, I'm not going to vote for it. So it hit me.
That's okay.
And then Mr. Gillis, Captain Gillis. I'm so glad you made it here. I was really bummed that you weren't here when we voted you in, but I'm so glad you did make it here.
I did want to stop in and thank you all very much.
Come on up.
All right, John.
Come on up.
You know how this works, dude. You've been here long enough.
Public, I apologize. We actually just got back from our annual RIT training out at the DPW barn, so I apologize for not being here, but my wife sent me a text and said you should probably go over there and make sure you thank them.
Good wife.
Yeah, she keeps me in line, absolutely. But we did some great training tonight. Otherwise, I would have been here. But we just got back. You guys are helping me miss out on cleanup, which isn't a bad thing. But I can say that I do appreciate it. This is a great city, a great organization. I've been 20 years now, and training is one of the cornerstones of my career. And I will say that us being out there training tonight was something that best serves the city. Not me being here waiting to hear the news. It was out there with them. So I'm just going to keep working really hard, and I'm excited about the opportunity. I do appreciate you guys supporting that.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
I'm glad we have a great fire guy too. That's why I told everybody that, our confidence in you in firefighting just, for me, it's high. So it's just.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer when it was you, so thank you for all you do.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I made it before. I'm not sure if I'll make it in time, but I'm glad I did.
We were bummed, we weren't mad.
Yeah.
We wanted to see your joy. I mean, at the end of the day.
It's kind of, it's been a little bit of a journey, but nothing comes easy that's worth it. And it's, like I said, I've still got a long time to go here, and I'm excited that my career is going to go in this way where I can really help teach and instruct all the new hires and career development. That's one of my main things I focus on. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Take care.
You.
And that,
Captain.
And then to everyone who was involved in the decision-making and getting rid of these drawers.
That is on my list, David.
Putting swim noodles on the wedges underneath here so we don't
Yeah, I
bang
said it
our
would only take a couple hours, so.
And to see everyone, almost everyone sitting at the same height in the chairs.
Right?
And nobody's like wriggling or anything, so.
That would be DPW employee Brett Nesbitt.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I like the group effort.
Thank you.
Go team.
Yes. And I'm really looking forward to the budget process and the season. The other thing is that I'm used to in my profession seeing on a monthly basis what we call P&L meeting. If we just had a regular sheet of what the P&L is, okay, what we budgeted, what we actually spent, and if we could get that on a regular basis, that would be great.
I think we had one at the last meeting, and just with staffing and trying to get things straight and packets, it might be something a little bit better for, like a reminder to have a placeholder on our agendas for, the monthly financials.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We talked about,
We'll keep working on it. It's pretty easy to do.
we talked about updates too, department updates, just some bullet points, getting more of the, the new businesses, the new openings, the new, it's just important.
Yep, we're working on ramping up that information too.
Cool.
That's it. Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Trump.
Yes, you took away my, thank you all who participated in taking my suggestion and removing those god-awful drawers that killed everybody and were useless. And the noodles are great too, because now I won't go home with bruised legs. And all the other boards that sit up here, I am sure, are going to be ecstatically happy with the change. Not to mention the chairs are way better, and there's actually padding, so we're not sitting on wood.
Yes, thanks to Mary for
Yes.
making the chairs happen.
Very, yeah, DPW, Mary, Elaine, everybody, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yes, thank you, thank you. Definitely, when we sit here for this long, definitely better. So, couple things. The Historical Commission, of course, will be having their open house on April the 3rd, and they are having, of course, a sale of things for Easter. And, and I was also told to say, and jewelry. Apparently, they have a lot of jewelry. So anybody who likes jewelry, that's your stopping spot. I wanted to thank, I know Marie Salufo did have to resign from her board for family stuff, and but we do appreciate anybody who serves on our boards, and all those people who, I wanted to thank all the people who submit to be on our boards. Even if you don't get chosen, we still appreciate that you took the time to want to serve the community. Sometimes you might not get to serve this time, but you might get to serve next time, and there's always opening on other boards. And right now, I know that Dana and I are trying to get one of our kind of coworkers who lives in Fraser, ironically, that I just found out, even though I've talked to her for 3 years, to get to go for Parks and Rec. And she said she pulled an application, so we're getting closer.
Get closer.
We're getting closer. So I want to thank all the applicants for that. There is something that has been really bothering me, and I really don't care. It's going to be unpopular, and that just is what it is. With the climate of the world today, I pray to God it never, ever happens again, but I'm not that naive, that another school shooting will never happen. But with that being said, police should always be in full uniform. I don't know when the casual day thing started. Okay, they're not DPW where they can get away with boots, jeans, and a T-shirt. And while I appreciate for training purposes, absolutely, but when you are on duty serving this community, I don't care if you never leave the office. You should still have on that uniform, because I got news for you. If something like that god-awful happens in this city, you're going to need to report, and everybody's going to need to be there. And you don't have time to change into a uniform. You'll be lucky if you have time to throw on a bulletproof vest. Okay? And people need to know who they can go to. And I'm not saying I would ever do this either, but I know it's not allowed on school grounds, so I would never carry on school grounds. But let's just say if it was at the picnic or something, and this was going on. If you don't have your uniform on, and you're walking up with a bulletproof vest and a gun, because let's face it, the psychotic maniacs who do this, and the mental people who do this, they wear vests, right? I don't understand that, considering they clearly have a death wish. But that being said, how do I know who you are? I don't know who you are. People aren't going to know who to run to for safety, for help, whatever. I mean, and you better pray you're a better shot than me, because I have a marksman ribbon, and if I see somebody approaching me with a a vest on and a gun, and they're not identifiable in any other way, that's how bad things happen. I don't know when we got away from it. We should have never gotten away from it. This is the one job, absolutely, I mean, besides doctors, because doctors in hospitals, they have to wear scrubs. They go into an operating room, they can't wear a suit or a T-shirt or whatever they want. They can wear it underneath their uniform. But to be a police officer, you need to be dressed appropriately when you are on duty at all times. People need to be able to know who you are and identify who you are for their safety's sake. You know, that I'm making a motion, or I want to make it a policy, that I'm sorry, that is the one job you can't have casual days on, or just, you know, wear a nice little polo with an emblem. I mean, again, if you're training, or, you know, you're just out in the public just being, you know, yourself, that's fine. But when you are on duty, you need to be in a uniform. And it needs to be from the command on down. I just 100% believe that. I hope you all see where I'm coming from with this. In today's day and age, people need to be able to identify who are the police officers. And they can't do that in chaotic, crazy situations when they're not dressed appropriately. And again, you're not going to have time to throw on a uniform. So I would personally like to make a motion to direct the city manager to make it a policy that when they are on duty, they are to be dressed in their uniforms. They get a stipend every year for uniforms. I know they do. So wear the uniform. You wanted this job. You chose this job. God bless you for choosing this job, truly. But you need to be identifiable.
I don't know enough about the history or why things changed, what different uniforms and things that they have. I would certainly like to bring the captain here to address that.
That's fine, but in the meantime, even if that's the case, again,
I don't know what exactly a uniform is, because I know that they have like the pants.
I believe
I don't know what they're called.
But the shirts,
They have
they're
different
police.
shirts.
But their shirts, they have short sleeve, they have long sleeve, they have their patches, their insignias, their things. That is their uniform. That has always been a policeman's uniform. Whatever, basically, this is what I say. Whatever the road officers are wearing, all of our officers need to be wearing. I guess that would be my motion.
Captains typically have a different
They have
look
different
and a
insignia.
different- And their shirt color is usually different.
But it still needs to be a uniform.
Best first start is check the SOPs. I know they were
There's a
changed
motion and a
recently, but
second.
there is.
Yeah.
Whatever the uniform, and I know from my own experience, they have defined, they can buy these pants and this shirt from the PSO's perspective. But
Yeah.
yeah, while the color's different, it's a uniform that says City of Fraser.
It's the emblem, it has the identification, the
whatever.
badge.
It's like the devil is in the details, what constitutes a uniform. And I know that one of the things typically a lot of police departments have been doing to help with morale and maintaining staff is that they have been going more casual. I don't have enough information or really know what to call a uniform,
Whatever it is described
how to do it.
in their is it in their contract or their SOP? Whatever's in the SOP. And I understand it's about morale, but that job, being a police officer is an extremely serious job. And, you know, even if you're in the office 99.9% of the time, there will be a time where everybody is going to get called to something. It's just inevitable. It's god-awful, but that's the world we live in. That's the reality. And I'm sorry, but you need to be dressed appropriately. And you know what? We all have insurance. And what do we have insurance for? The what if. So if you need to be in a uniform, because the what if happens every single day to everybody. And I want our team to be prepared. And I want our citizens, and possibly, God awfully, hopefully not, our children, to know and be able to identify who those people are that they can trust and have protect them. So.
City Attorney, Mr. Mdot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I completely support and understand the sentiment, but I have to slow it down if I can a little bit. If we look at the Standard Operating Procedure Manual, and it has specifics in it already that allow for these variations on being dressed at work, then just enforcing the manual isn't going to get anything changed. It's already in place. What I'm more concerned about, because we can get around that if they do a revision of their manual, is different legal concerns regarding undercover officers. They're on duty.
As far as I
They're
know,
not
we don't
wearing-
have
They're
undercover.
not, wearing-
We don't
but if
have-
they
we
go,
don't
but
have
if they have to go on a particular assignment or execute, some kind of undercover, surveillance, they probably shouldn't be marked.
Well,
They shouldn't be. So
that's-
this is the legal side coming out of the caveat to your motion, though it's just so overbroad that there are going to be times when we can't honor it. And I'm not speaking for them. I think the captains should tell us better than I, but just based on my experience with police departments, there are different operations that require different uniforms. There are detective bureau who sit at a desk all day and call people on the phone that are witnesses on cases, or they're investigating child abuse. They are not typically, in any department, sitting there in full uniform with a gun belt and all of the heavy equipment on, because they're doing essentially professional office work for most of their time on duty. And even if that one, everybody says, fine, we don't like that, we want them in uniform, I understand that one too. But then you have the light duty. Let's say somebody's on injured duty or light duty, and they have
Don't have that.
restrictions. Well, they have restrictions for maybe not carrying all that heavy equipment. Maybe they're on some kind of, clerical duty because of injury leave or injury return. So I'm just thinking of all the different types of things I've seen over the years that do account for why they wouldn't be wearing an actual, blue patched shirt with gun belt and vest and all of the heavy equipment, the walkies.
I'm not saying all the heavy equipment. I'm saying the actual uniform.
Okay. Well, I
And
think
we
that's
don't have an
considered part of it.
undercover right now. So I understand, but again, Don, if God forbid something happened, they're going to be there too. You think they're going to sit at their desk doing their paperwork like, oh my God, there's a shooting going on, I'm just going to sit here. No, they're going to act. They're all going to act because that is a cop's instinct. It is to get in there and protect and to do what you need to do. But you need to be appropriately dressed in the sense of so somebody can identify you. And that doesn't happen here often. And I know that they can be mad at me all they want, but knowing one of the kids who was murdered in Oxford happens to be somebody who went to Fraser High School, son, and I swam with him. And anyway, there's a whole long story behind all that. But the point is, this happens. This happens. And again, I pray to God it never happens again anywhere. But unfortunately, in this crazy world we live in, mental health is not addressed properly, and there's a ton of lazy parents who don't do what they should do for their children, and that's just the reality in the world we live in. So we need to be forward thinking, and we need to be prepared at all times. And I'm not saying necessarily if they're on light duty, obviously they're not carrying their gun. I'm saying be in the uniform, because you can throw on a gun and you can throw on a vest really doggone quick. You can do it as you're driving, actually. And I know this because I've done it, but I'm just saying that's the reality we live in. So I am just saying, I am making a motion for you to please look at the manual and see what is proper. And you can have the captains come. That's fine. And I understand it can be a morale killer or whatever. But the point is, there's a uniform for specific jobs for a reason. Like Mark doesn't send his people out without the correct footwear, because if they drop something on their foot and they don't have the metal in the toes and stuff, everybody's got stuff they're supposed to wear. I have, a set amount of things I can wear to work that I can't wear to work. Even on casual day, I have specifics and I have to pay to participate, but also I work in an office. If I was a cop, I would be expected to wear my uniform, and that's just how I feel.
I think it's going to come down to something like, is uniform defined?
Well, then we need to define it.
It might be something that we're going to need to take steps to really
That's what I was going to
figure
say.
all of that out.
I interpreted the motion as the policy is that absent an exception, you're in uniform that makes you readily identifiable, and khakis and a polo with the Fraser insignia is not your, in your opinion. And I know the PSOs do not have casual day. They do not have casual Fridays, or they
Gotta
are
get their little
always,
man on the pole.
and so to me, it's come up with the policy and enforce the policy that, which ironically, I just found out we don't have light duty, I didn't know that, but absent the exceptions that make sense, if you are going undercover or if you are doing fire training, obviously.
Training,
doing
yeah,
fire
training,
training, that makes
yeah.
sense, you're not in your uniform. But the policy is to make sure, because on the flip side, the one thing you didn't address was, we're not going to have someone just sitting and doing desk duty. We are short-staffed. The expectation from me and the reason I campaign is more boots on the ground, more officers outside at any given time. And so if there's a run and there's only 2 people staffed on the day shift, that detective in the detective bureau, I expect him to go, because that phone call can wait, or whatever it is. It's a all hands on deck, because that's the department that a small city has, just like in every other department here, it's all hands on deck. DPW guy doesn't go, oh, sorry, there's a water main break, but that's not my job. Same in the Department of Public Safety. So I anticipated, what I seconded was you coming up with a policy to ensure that the officers, as defined in whatever way, are readily identifiable in a more formalized setting. And so that's what I was seconding.
Well,
Not that starting tomorrow, because we have to make sure.
Well, no, I didn't say tomorrow.
Yeah.
I feel very, very passionate about this. I think it is the right thing to do, and I
think giving her direction is fine.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely.
Well, the motion's on the table and it's been seconded. We can take a vote.
Motion second, I know.
So,
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments from the audience? Nope.
Mark's like, I'm out of here.
Any more from council?
Can we just clarify exactly what the motion is? I feel like there's been a couple iterations. Maybe that's
It's just to have Elaine find out what is standard uniform, right? Is that?
Here's what I will be doing is,
Yeah.
I will be taking a look, seeing if there is a procedure that, or a process that requires them to wear a certain type of uniform, find out if that is being followed or not. If there's not a procedure, then we'll have to take a look at forming a procedure.
So is that your motion?
That is my motion.
That is a fine.
Okay.
We'll second that.
Right.
Yep.
Got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. I just don't think it needs a motion, but it passes. Motion. Anything else? You still have the floor.
No, I think that's it. Did I go over? Yep. Nope, that was it.
I only have a couple things. The agenda that we post, do we post this still on the Fraser channel? Fraser channel, cable channel.
The cable channel?
Yeah. We used to do it a long time ago, and then I've had a couple of calls and another one tonight that people who don't have computers don't get the opportunity, so if
Do they do like a PDF of it or something like
it's
that?
just a copy, like, it just runs through, yeah, on the screen. So if we could get that put on the thing, that would be great. Blue Jean Ball was already talked about. I sent everyone some email, Candace Miller about Hamtramck, which is just utterly crazy.
Oh, God.
Highland Park.
Or
Highland Park,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Highland Park. And I told Elaine, I did talk to Candace Miller, because I thought when I sent that to you guys, you were all gonna go through the roof like I did. But they are forming a committee, to take it to Lansing and to, get the state to act and do something on it, because it's just not fair that,
That we have to pay for their water?
yeah, and they continue just not to pay their bills at all, so,
How does that even happen?
that was news to me, and I just about,
Can we do that? Can we just say, hey, we're not going to pay our water bills, and you know what, the rest of you communities can split it up and you can eat it?
so we will,
Is they would pull our revenue sharing.
Yeah.
And whatever else they could pull.
so we'll stay on it, and,
That's ridiculous.
if we have to be a part of this committee, I told her we'll be glad, because Fraser spills are tough enough the way they are, so we don't need to inquire in another city. So just to clarify that for everybody. Last Friday was actually the 22nd anniversary of firefighter Sutton dying in the line of duty. So we did meet with the family out at the memorial, and we still had about 20, 30 people show up and went out after and talked to the family and did some stuff, so. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And that's all I have. Anybody from the audience? Participation? Yeah. Anybody
Does Jim
online?
want to say anything?
I know, right?
Set?
Jim?
Motion to adjourn.
Take a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody, good meeting.
Oh,
Thank you.
and good news, it's my daughter's roommate.